Good evening, everybody. It's not. It's sorry. I guess that tells me that Twitch is working. So it's Industries of Titan day today. I really get mixed up in terms of when the updates are coming in, and I feel even more embarrassed about it because the patch notes say it, but I don't have the patch notes in front of me when I make my estimates in terms of what's going to be up for the week. So for those of you who are looking forward to Phantom Brigade, I apologize. We will be returning to that, but probably later on in the month when the new update for that game comes out. But I do hope you stick around for Industries of Titan, which is by the same developer, Brace Yourself Games, wonderful Canadians. In fact, they are wonderful people in general, but I also suspect they are particularly good Canadians. But in this case here, there's a new update. So for those of you who are either new to the broadcast, I noticed there's actually quite a few of you lately. What will normally happen when there is an Industries of Titan update, we will watch their update video. We'll read the patch notes. Some of them are longer than others. And then we jump into the game because we've been with this game for a while. It's been over a year. It's now out in early access for Steam as well as the Epic Store. I don't believe it has a date for leaving early access, but I'm also not... I mean, I don't get a say in this, obviously, but I'm also not really in a rush to see this leave early access because it really feels like they just keep adding more and more interesting things. And, you know, there always has to be a point where... you say you're done. I actually every once in a while Twitter's going to give me a recommendation, so I first of all wind up finding some more Brace Yourself people on Twitter, and they're almost, I can't even say almost, I mean, so far everyone I've followed has usually been a good tweeter, or at the very least they share interesting things. So I also kind of feel a little embarrassed when there's more ones that sort of show up in the finds, because apparently an AI is more capable of finding, more capable of finding people I'm interested in following. That's probably not the way probably not the way I'd actually want it to be. Sorry, I need a sip of tea. I'll explain that in a little bit too. But there was a recommendation I noticed, and it's not directly related to Brace Yourself, but I noticed something, and I have a guess in terms of the kind of project that they might be working on next. So we will see. I'm not 100% sure how to talk about it. Like, I kind of feel like I should just write it in a sealed envelope, and if it turns out, just break it open and say, haha, I knew it all along. But patience. But yeah, obviously, I can't wait to see more and more of the updates that keep coming in on this thing. But of course, full release also means that the people who are working on this game that I really enjoy also get freed up to work on something new and cool and something I will also probably enjoy even more. So it's always tricky. But like I said, I suspect we probably have quite some time ahead of us in terms of Industries of Titan updates. So with that in mind, the tradition is to watch the video of... so it used to be that they would sort of do trailers. Now these are a little more sort of informational videos as far as how the new update works. It's actually kind of neat. The Brace Yourself staff are very good at just recording kind of the line. Like, they're very clear and they're enjoyable to watch. So I will load up the screen. This is Update 22, Rival AI.
Hi founders, this is Tina, writer on Industries of Titan.
Hello, Tina.
This update is bringing you Rival AI and more. Let's take a look. There are other founders on Titan. In this update, you'll meet Quill Boss, but expect more rival founders in the future. Each have their own goals and will be growing their city alongside yours. That also means that the size of the map has increased by 26%. Rival founders face the same challenges as you do, such as fire, pollution, and those pesky rebels. And, while the Council doesn't currently sanction violence against the rivals, I'm sure you'll find a way to gain the economic upper hand until the time comes when you can use more forceful measures. The Council has been hard at work getting the fire situation under control. Fire now spreads at a slower rate, and extinguishing a building's fire now reduces the strength of adjacent flames. And reignition takes twice as long after a building has been extinguished. Not just that, but extinguishing fire no longer costs credits. And Dr. Braxton Daw has discovered shiny new tech to make your roads non-flammable. Also, we've added more advisors for you to chat with. If you're busy, you can always dismiss their call and chat with them later, or listen to any missed messages in your codex. These exciting new updates, as well as the usual bug fixes and optimizations, will arrive for all players on Titan Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. You can always find updates from us on the first Tuesday of each month. Expect more to come in our June update, when we'll be focusing on optimization and various improvements. Thanks for watching, Founder.
Cool. Okay, so I actually feel like a little bit of a goof on a couple things. So first of all, I feel for some reason I thought the speaker was associated with a different project. So I actually kind of feel like I've probably misattributed a lot of writing to someone else. And I mean, like, obviously, I'm not good enough at being able to pick up material. Like, I wouldn't be able to tell you who wrote what just by based on looking at it. But I think I tend to talk a lot about Lulu, who is somebody who I remember, like, I remember just a couple of cases of, just different streams and all of that. But yeah, I hate attributing. It's kind of like, when people talk about really popular or really famous games, and the way that they talk about it is kind of like there's only one person. It's like there's only one person who made it. So it's like, Deus Ex apparently was just, sprung fully formed from the brain of Warren Spector and nobody else had anything to do with it, that sort of stuff. So I feel bad with misattributing. So apologies. Now I know that there are multiple active writers on the project. That's probably always been true. The other thing that's funny is they mentioned a 26% increase to the map size. Now I don't know if I saw it in a tweet or on a Discord or something like that, but I saw the number like 1,000 plus tiles more, and I was pretty sure the map was 64 by 64. So I was like, oh, I wonder what the map is now with that. So I sort of like sat down and I like kind of worked out the math, and I'm like, well, this doesn't work well for 1,000. Like, there's no way of doing that's actually there might be a trick to it, but like I'm not that good at geometry, so like I had to really grind that thing out and try and make it work, and I wound up with some like horrible like square root monstrosity. And eventually I kind of like, it's like, okay, well, let's just say maybe they're rounding it off. And then I kind of worked out, it's like, okay, yeah, eight new tiles sort of seems like that would maybe make sense. And then the video here says 26%. So while the video is running, I took a quick look at and I'm like, okay, so if it's 64 by 64, add the 26%. It's like, okay, well, there's a little bit of a drift in terms of decimals, but like that kind of came down to roughly the same number that I had before. I'm like, yeah, this seems like it maybe be that you get another 8 tiles. And I'm already noticing right here increased from 64 by 64 to 72 by 72. So if I didn't save the patch notes, I got to save myself a lot of tedious mathematics. But there's a Project Euler problem I tried to brute force through programming this afternoon, and I was doing something on my lunch, and it was very obviously designed to have me exercise a little bit of mathematical reasoning, because it took a very long time to run. I believe if I didn't shut it down, it would still be running now. Anyways, neither here nor there. Let's talk about the updates. Patch highlights. Rival AI compete against a new rival corporation. Bigger maps. Maps are 1,000 plus tiles bigger. Faster tech. Research tech faster. Fire rework. Fire spreads differently now, and more. Industries of Titan is in early access, which means we are actively updating and adding new content based on our roadmap and your wonderful feedback. You can expect the next Titan Tuesday on June the 7th, but how much you want to bet that I'm not going to remember that. Changes as of 0.24.0, and a little Saturn indicates a change due to community feedback. Rival AI has been introduced to the game. Now, this is something I've been looking forward to ever since they said it was coming this month. Rival AI can be selected at the start of a new game. Currently, one AI personality, more to come during early access, will spawn somewhere on the map and build a city alongside yours. Rival AI has their own victory card that it will try to complete. Player will spawn in a corner of the map instead of the center when a rival is in the game and cannot directly attack the AI, and the AI will not attack the player. This will come later in early access. And in fact, so I don't know this for sure, but for those of you who have seen the sort of teaser trailer for Industries of Titan, there's this nice, I think everybody kind of remembers the visual style for this game quite well. It has this sort of story that it tells of the cityscape, and there's some ships in the sky, and one of the ships kind of gets told off for not having, I think it was like a combat bond, and then they transfer the cash for a combat bond, and they're allowed to proceed to blow up the ship. So my suspicion here is that where this is going is that you will be able to fight the rival AI. Well, I mean, it's saying that we'll be able to fight the rival AI, but I suspect you will have to pay in order to do so, which I think is wonderful for all sorts of reasons. Map sizes are significantly larger, increased by to 72 by 72 from 64 by 64. I remember in the Discord, I think there was a little bit of discussion. I think this was from players talking about wanting to have different options of map sizes. I don't know if that is intended for the game here. It certainly in this case, it's a fixed increase, and I have to assume that this is because the rival AI is going to be taking up some space. Advisor chat button. If you miss or dismiss an audio log during gameplay, you will be able to listen to it by clicking the new chat button for that advisor. Quitting or saving and loading will remove all pending chats. Any missed chats can still be replayed from the codex at any time, and added unlockable lore logs for population and waste advisors. Who is the population advisor? It's not Ciaro. Is that Lio? Tech web. New tech, non-flammable roads. Researching this tech will stop fire from spreading to roads. Slightly increase the speed of researching tech in the early game. Fire spread rework. Fire no longer spreads exponentially. Instead, there is a global timer that will determine when a fire will spread from a building with a high enough fire intensity. Initially, fire will only spread to one building at a time. As more buildings catch fire, the amount of fires that can spread at once will increase up to 3 at a time. Extinguishing a fire will decrease the fire intensity of nearby burning buildings, and increase the amount of time it takes for an extinguished building to be able to catch fire again. Sorry, is Noxcam? Sorry, I've been having some trouble sleeping lately, so I'm very sort of fluttery, but it's just a username. Doesn't matter how you pronounce it. It's very kind of you. I did have a couple people tell me off for not doing the name properly, and I'm like, I don't know, man. It's hard to. It is what it is. But Industries of Titan. I think I said it was going to be Phantom Brigade on Monday, but in this case, it's Industries of Titan because it just got an update. We're going through. Oh, yeah, I'm sure I will. I mean, I'll definitely have a good sleep tonight when I'm done, but right now I'm just trying to pound back as much tea as I can so I can be lucid for Industries of Titan. But yeah, so I'm kind of interested in seeing how the fire spread works. So I am a bit of a masochist when it comes to this game, I think, because I sort of liked how panicked I would get about fires. Like, it really felt like they could get out of control. But I also think that is why the fire spread rework has happened. And I also kind of think it will be a good thing overall. It's especially if I maybe want to start trying to crank up the difficulty again. I have a feeling that probably being able to, have fires be a threat, but not something that once you hit a certain threshold, you're never going to have any chance of getting under control. It's it's a challenging one. Oh, really? This is so. I don't know if you've ever heard of the game Crypt of the Necrodancer. Another similar game to that is on the Switch called Cadence of Hyrule. Brace Yourself Games is a Canadian game developer, and they, I believe they self-describe, but it's a good description as the indie Katamari. They acquired a small studio. They've been kind of rolling in a bunch of talent, basically, and Industries of Titan is a cyberpunk city builder. Would probably be the best way to put it. It definitely is kind of following in the lines of kind of this wave of simulation games that have been coming out that are very popular. So you can think of sort of a Dwarf Fortress, RimWorld. Why am I not thinking? Oxygen Not Included. Like, the sorts of things where there's sort of lots of interacting systems to, be like City Builder is a good name for it, but it's definitely quite a bit more complicated than just a SimCity or a City Skylines, which are by no means simple games on their own. And one of the nice little hooks for it as well is that it's got a pretty good strategy layer to it. So you've got rebels that are going to be coming after you to try and destroy your hard work. And one of the things that makes that very interesting to me, at least, I know Hook has a special meaning among Brace Yourself, but I think one of the things that makes it so interesting for me is that it has a pretty significant effect on how your city looks. Obviously, the type of city that you build with a mind to defending it can be very different from the type of city that you'd build with sort of no restrictions, unlimited money, and so on and so forth. And what I think one of the big things for me is I moved from Vancouver to Ottawa, and Ottawa, in fact, is a city that was largely built out of military considerations. In fact, our Parliament buildings sort of sit on the edge of sort of this sheer cliff. And you can see, obviously, Canada probably does not have sort of this immediate fear of attack. But you could imagine, right, if you were going to try and attack the Parliament for whatever reason, there's one clear way that you would go. And of course, that also means that, you're also going to, build and prepare accordingly. I think it was called Bytown originally. So just because of that little bit of history, obviously I kind of go around and check out some of the local history in that. It's just neat to play a game which sort of recognizes the fact that a lot of places that we've built had another purpose, and that purpose sometimes shapes, where the important districts are and why why places are built the way that they are. Another example I haven't actually read this paper, but I remember there was a sort of a historical economics paper which did a look at the presence of Roman roads. And apparently, if the Romans built a road to your city in antiquity, that would actually have a measurable effect in the modern day in terms of your overall prosperity. And you can see why this would make sense, right? Because, of course, when you have this, you have sort of this public capital, you have this, this infrastructure that's designed, for a large part, I think, to promote commerce. I mean, it's obviously moving armies is a big reason why the Romans built roads as well. But those armies are usually going to be, at the very least, protecting the assets. But of course, in the case of the Romans, also probably acquiring more. But in this case here, obviously, for the same reason that if we get like a hospital or we get, police station or something like that in an area, there's a certain expectation that you are going to be able to sort of build and invest something of yourself, and that you're going to be supported in terms of doing that. But anyways, that's a really, really long road to go to basically just sort of say, I think one of the things that is very interesting about the strategy element to this game is how it shapes the city. And it's actually something that is very interesting in the real world. If you like to go down rabbit holes like that, there are some. I don't know. I kind of find, I don't know how intentional it was, but I sort of see some parallels. You watched a video on how Roman roads were built. It's crazy how advanced they were. Yeah, I don't actually know that much about the mechanics of it, but certainly it is a distinguishing feature. Anyways, we're almost at the end of the patch notes. Balance changes. Building repair speed has been increased, and extinguishing fire is now free. This is somewhat a shame, by the way, because I do believe historically there were private fire companies, and if you did not have the coverage under one particular group, they just kind of go by and leave it to the other fire brigade. I mean, I don't know how true these stories are, but there are anecdotes of like the rival group sort of standing outside a fire, and if it jumps to the other building, then they will start to extinguish it. But for the one that didn't pay, they're just kind of going to sit and watch. I should look into seeing if that's true, but I'm assuming this was probably a bit of a pain point for people. So private fire departments, at least we don't have those anymore. Yeah, actually, okay. Here's a funny one. Sorry, I'm really going on anecdotes during the patch notes, but I watched a movie again, which it has probably got to have the worst ratio of quality to film to quality of title that I've ever seen. Well, I guess the ratio is very high, but like. It's definitely, you would not expect it. RoboCop, right? RoboCop if you go into a movie called RoboCop and you've not heard of RoboCop, you probably do not have very high expectations for the quality. It's actually not a bad film, all told. I definitely get the feeling of it being a very 80s kind of retelling of Frankenstein, to be honest. But a postmodern Prometheus, if you will. But what's really funny about it is I think within like the opening 20 minutes or so, they're introducing like the evil corporation that will ultimately sort of produce this cyborg police officer. And like the way they're evil is because they're talking about is like, and we've, privately provide the following services. And like, they list like, what was it? Like healthcare, military, like there's a bunch of different, prison. They make a big deal about prisons and all of that, but like, it's a list of like, I think 6 different services or something like that. And this is like the scene where it's supposed to be like, oh, what terrible dystopia these people live in. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure all but 2 of those are privatized in the United States now. So, I'm not going to say that RoboCop is the one you go to see the future. But I did find it actually very amusing that in that particular case, they're introducing this as just completely beyond the pale, and it's actually something that is a reality for us today. Don't get me wrong. Like I enjoyed RoboCop. I laughed at quite a few bits. And I'm not sure if it was intentional or not. I like to think that it's intentional because I just generally like to think the best of the movies. I'm probably not going to like rewatch it a million times like I have Terminator. I think Terminator is a masterpiece, but apparently I'm stuck in watching movies that are super old. The only thing you know about RoboCop is that it had a mobile game that you played when you were 10. I had no idea there was a mobile game for RoboCop. You don't know if it was official or not? Well, I mean, like, I think they did a remake of the RoboCop movies, and I know... well, I don't know, but I believe that character has actually appeared as a fighter in one of the new Mortal Kombat games. You can tell that I'm really into fighting games. But you know what fighting game I am going to get into? I'm going to get me a Switch. And I'm going to get me a copy of Smash. And I'm going to be training. And you know who you are. I will have my vengeance. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a property that's continued to... Actually, if you go and look at the IMDb page for the writers of RoboCop, there's like 2 things that they've got. There's like RoboCop and Starship Troopers, which had Paul Verhoeven, the same director. And the like every other credit is basically some derivation of a RoboCop property. Like it's just either like a spin-off or a, you know, like a, you know, characters inspired by, characters created by, you know, stuff like that. Which, I mean, more power to them, right? If you got something that's, you know, that's going to make you money, like, you don't, if you've said what you have to say with movies, you know, move on with your life, do whatever you want. But I did notice that there does seem to be like a lot of RoboCop, at least at the very least, RoboCop adjacent products, particularly like games and movies. So it would not surprise me at all if there was a mobile game. Okay. Miscellaneous changes. Added an interior camera transition when entering and exiting shipyards. Oh, that'll be interesting. The foam upgrade for fire extinguishers has a new sound effect. I'm assuming that's for when they are dousing the fires, not for when you get the technology. Market cap summary screen has been adjusted to use the space better, and added a tooltip to the rebuild all button when it is unavailable. Fixes, as of 0.25.0, fixed research bar briefly disappearing when entering buildings, fixed focus not being correctly released when pressing enter after editing employee priorities. Fix some UI elements not being clickable if the mouse was not moved between clicks. Fixed employee module and auto power shield not getting unlocked in the codex. Fixed background. Oh, I wonder if this is why. I'm going to bet that this is sometimes where I was like certain that I had turned a. Well, no, that wouldn't explain it because I'd probably have to move. Anyway, so every once in a while I feel like I haven't. Like I felt like I turned something on, but it didn't. And I'm wondering if this is the bug that was causing that. Fixed employee module and auto power shield not getting unlocked in the codex. Fixed background audio continuing to play from the councilwoman if continue playing was clicked too quickly after achieving victory. Fixed the audio drop notifications getting dismissed by other notifications. Fixed storage upgrade button on council and spaceport appearing available when the player does not have enough credits. Fixed engine required warning appearing in the shipyard when building additional engines after one has been built. Fix the sound effect for damaging ships playing when loading into a save with a damaged player ship, and fix the rebuild all button not using all tiers of resources the player has to determine if the button is available. This will make rebuild all available in situations where it previously wasn't. And there's a list of known issues here, which I should probably be checking a little bit more often before I submit bug reports. But honestly, I sometimes think it's progress if I just submit a bug report in the first place. So on we go to the game. And because I know we have at least one person here who hasn't seen the game before, you're in for a treat, in my opinion.
Titan. Everyone comes to Titan with a dream. Our moon is one of limitless wealth. There are ancient riches here for those with the strength to claim them. But some dreams start smaller. A better life, more dignity, more comfort. Today, Titan is a place where you can buy those dreams, where anyone can profit. But it isn't easy. You have to prove yourself here. Those who settle here take that risk. And without their diligent labor, our power grid would fail. Pollution would overwhelm us. And our trade would collapse. It's hard work, but on Titan, hard work isn't enough. The bold, the strong, Those are the people Titan rewards. Those are the ones who see their dreams through. Exceptional people. Friends to the Council. That is why we're giving you this opportunity, Founder. We expect great things from you. Make sure you live up to our expectations.
Just put the kettle on, so I might have to step away for a minute. But it's funny that you mentioned the background. I would guess it's probably not identical because I did make a couple of minor adjustments to fit in the a couple of adjustments to sort of just fit the scale and all of that. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was the same because, like, I do feel somewhat strongly about making sure that I'm not just taking other people's copyrighted material and putting it into my broadcast. So that's actually just something from the Hubble Space Telescope. And obviously I went for one that I thought was particularly photogenic. And really at the time I was playing almost exclusively sort of science fiction based games. So yeah, I didn't know you streamed or previously streamed, by the way. That's cool. But yeah, you almost certainly probably use the same image. But I know I had to adjust it a little bit to get it where I needed to go. It's not as blurry in the real image, but I didn't want it to be too sharp for the time that I was playing games that had like a 4:3 aspect ratio. Like I didn't want it to distract too much from the game. And V, 7,013th of their name, RoboCop, Terminator, Starship Troopers. Must watch movies if you like science fiction. Hello everyone, by the way. Yeah, the one difference I'll actually say is as far as Starship Troopers, like I don't find that a very memorable film. I have seen it, but I remember when I did finally get around to seeing Starship Troopers, I kind of questioned why that film existed because I sort of felt that Starship Troopers already existed in the form of aliens. I don't know how consciously because James Cameron wrote and directed Aliens. I mean, he also wrote and directed Terminator, but obviously the sequel, you wouldn't necessarily assume that it's a writer-director. But yeah, it's like obviously Aliens had to be heavily influenced by the book. But yeah, maybe I should check out Starship Troopers again. Maybe I'm being unkind to it. I'm just gonna hop off for my tea. The kettle's finished boiling. It'll take me a couple seconds, and we will take a quick second to talk about the roadmap, and then we will jump into the game. So when you look at the check marks, it seems like there isn't a whole lot that kind of got added in here or on the coming soon. But I also have a suspicion adding a whole rival AI is a big job. So needless to say, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this works in the game. It is also, I'm curious what the reception to this is going to be, because I've tended to notice that sometimes the items that are in 1.0, if you look at like reviews or sometimes discussion in the Discord, I think people will sometimes project that into the future and sort of ignore the 1.0 part of it. And I definitely can remember, there've been a couple of features where it's like, the 1.0 comes in and it's very basic. And then they'll do an update sort of later on in the lifetime. And it's like, oh, wow, this is really good. Like, it's better than I even expected. So, I mean, I'm not going in with an expectation that the rival AI is going to be a disappointment, but I am a little curious in terms of what the discussion's going to be like, because I've sometimes noticed that a feature is kind of considered to be underwhelming when, like, to me, I always kind of keep in the back of my mind that it's like, okay, so this is sort of the foundation on which the full experience will be realized. Coming up, quality of life improvements, optimizations, more audio logs, so optimization backlog. What I tend to find with these ones, there's usually like one item that's like buried in the patch notes where I'm like, oh, hey, that's so cool. So I'm curious if that trend will continue, and I'm curious what my favorite on this is going to be. And then planned future updates, wind, advanced factory modules, liquids, drinks, clubs, food, farm, hunger, healthcare, hospitals, leisure, happiness, more rivals, spaceport interactions, more council interactions, more combat devices, more combat ship types, more enemy types, more music, and if that didn't cover everything, there's even more. And given the fact that they at least used to use Roman numerals for the updates, I should actually just take a quick second here and see if they still do. Oh, I closed my browser. If they still use Roman numerals for updates, I really hope the leisure update is update 30. Let's take a quick second to the, oh wait, these are the audio logs. Okay, I'm gonna hold back on that because we'll experience these inside the game. You know what? We'll take care of the codex as we play this time. I think because there's people who are new to the game, starting off by reading building descriptions is probably not the best way to share the wonder that is Industries of Titan. So let's go for a new game. So I don't know if just people don't do the leaderboard a whole lot, or if I just don't get to see the entries. I do want to do another time contract at some point, but the base. So for those of you who are brand new to Titan, one thing I am going to say, I highly recommend playing Standard Titan. For those of you who get stressed out by the AI, well, okay, so I'll do probably it's better for me to do this in terms of contrasts. Personally, my recommendation, if you're picking between Standard and Zen, so Zen is going to be kind of like playing SimCity or City Skylines. Although it's worth remembering, right, that like SimCity had like disasters, right? Godzilla could show up, or there'd be like fires or whatever. So even then, right, there were disasters. It's just the rebels are a disaster. People who don't like capitalism are a disaster. Let's just be clear now. So I would say if you're the type of person who gets stressed out about the combat elements, I do think they add something special to the game, particularly in the way that your city, your city corporation winds up looking. And so if you feel like the sort of person who might be playing Zen, I recommend just going in here and hitting easy. I think the game is not too punishing as far as the enemy forces are concerned. If you don't keep an eye on it, it can get hard. It can get out of control after a while, but you kind of have, I think you get enough warning. Like once you start noticing the waves get more and more difficult, like that's kind of the signal to you to put some investment in terms of your ships. I think you kind of have enough sort of runway to be able to defend yourself. We definitely got in a bit of trouble the last time I played because I was making too much money too quickly. And I'm definitely going to be keeping... Oh, do I have my notepad? Yes, I do. Okay. I'm going to be taking copious notes for this one because I've got a couple of interesting graphs. I'm trying to learn how a couple of things work in Industries of Titan. And starting a new round is actually an opportunity for me to collect some data. But yeah, I strongly recommend checking out Standard. Time contract's pretty interesting in addition to just being able to show off what a complete... badass you are. It gives you 7 days to make as much money as you can. It's also on hardcore mode, so basically there's no pause. There's one save file that it's updated. You can walk away from the game and come back. So in that case, like if you have to take care of something, you can close out of the game and you can return, and I believe you will still be able to resume your mission, your contract. But if you, I guess technically you have a bit of a pause too if you hit like the escape button, but you can't like look at the lay of the land. Survival So this one I kind of feel like I play standard anyway. But like basically this is just endless waves of ships coming towards you. So it's a rodeo. You see how long you can stay on. But you do have the option at the end of the standard mode to take your city corp and just see how long you can last against those hordes. I've never actually done survival mode personally because I definitely really like the building side of things. But this is just a long way of me saying that I actually think standard is a great way to play. I was debating on trying hard or Titan, but in this case I'm just going to do normal again. I don't know. I feel like I need to get better at certain things in terms of my efficiency in terms of starts, and I'd like to experiment a little bit with that before I try and take Titan. I did have a Titan save, but I cleared all my saves because I'm assuming the AI is going to mess with that a little bit. Rebel activity, select the rebel behavior. After all rebel HQs have been destroyed, rebel attacks will continue to occur, and rebel attacks, in endless, rebel attacks will continue to occur, and in elimination, rebel attacks will no longer occur. So the way the game originally worked was that there were rebel bases, and destroying the rebel bases was the original victory condition. There are now different victory conditions in the game, and destroying rebel bases will give you advantages. I believe it will raise the amount of influence that you can get from the council, like your influence cap, and that'll make sense when I get inside the game. Influence is basically a currency in the game. But I do think probably, I've noticed for a really long time, there was this reaction from people of sort of saying, is like, but I destroyed the rebels. Why do they keep showing up? The idea is that, the surface of Saturn's moon, well, one of Saturn's moons, is not 64 by 64, or I guess 72 by 72. Like, you are on one part of Titan. And one thing you could say here would be, like, you never see Bahar Karoba's headquarters, right? Bahar exists off screen. So the rebels are coming from somewhere, right? And likewise, the rebels that are attacking your city are not coming out of those shipyards. If you could, you'd just sort of put some ships around those shipyards and defend. The attacks are these raids coming from the rebels from off the map. So to me, I personally didn't really have that moment of like, oh, I don't understand why the rebels are still coming in. But it does seem to have been a somewhat persistent I don't want to say complaint, but like it's something that's come up rather frequently. And so I think sort of in response to that feedback, the developers added elimination mode. So effectively what you can do here, if you really don't like the rebels coming after you, after a certain point, you can turn on elimination and then you go, destroy the rebel bases. That either, gives you a higher priority to do that or, however you want to look at it. I guess there's just that side of me that says, like, well, if you want elimination, that's kind of like Zen. Not exactly, because you have to do that initial, like, destruction. But to me, Endless sort of makes sense. And Endless makes sure that I have a reason to sort of still pursue my goals, even if I'm trying to take out a lot of rebel bases. You just remember that you have to do the introduction to your research paper. It shouldn't take too long since I type fast. Well, I definitely don't talk quickly, but good luck with your paper. I'll still be here probably, we'll talk to you later. Select your rivals. Rivals will build cities not far from your HQ. Like you, they will generate pollution, buy land, extract. Oh, actually, that's interesting. I didn't even really think of the pollution possibility. Buy land, extract ruins, and consume resources. Each rival has their own personality and goals to contend with. I'm definitely going to try and build a smokestack as close to Quill as I can. Rival details. Corporation goal, enterprising employer. Personality, pacifist. Faction, landfaller. A cosmopolitan sort of fellow, Quill's early life was one in motion, moving from colony to colony, never staying in one place too long. Throughout his travels, he learned the value of community and people and carried them into his business ventures. Eventually, he chose Titan as the home of his startup, with hopes of improving life on the infamous moon. But Titan is no place for an idealist, and as he soon found out. Nowadays, one can find Quill holed up in his office or drinking alone in a bar, watching the goings-on outside his windows with a frown. According to an inside source, there is a one-way ticket off Titan tucked away somewhere in his desk, waiting for the day that Titan's brutality becomes too much for Quill's ideals to withstand. Oh man, that's a neat little biography. I originally thought I like the show Billions. I haven't seen the new season yet. Apparently, people didn't care so much for it. Apparently, but they've changed. Well, they've added. There's an antagonist in it named Michael Brent. The reason I say like an antagonist is I guess it depends whether or not you root for like Axe or Chuck or anyone else. But I was wondering if they were kind of going that way. Like, there's... Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to... On the odd chance some of you haven't watched Billions and want to, I won't talk too much about the traits of Michael Thomas Aquinas Prince. But, I don't know. Some of you have seen the show. You can kind of see that there are a couple of overlaps, but neat. More rivals coming in early access. Later on, the council will also allow you and your rival to engage in combat. So apparently, it also seems like there will be multiple rivals. I actually kind of like this a little bit more than how... well, no, I guess Surviving Mars gives you the... I've kind of felt like with Surviving Mars, once they added the rival... colonies, it kind of felt like you had to have them, whereas here it feels like it's a variable amount. But now that I think of it, they're actually probably the same system, and I'm just looking at this in its early access form. Okay, destinations. It definitely recommends if you're starting off to do standard investment. Let's do... So there is actually one point where I want to try and do a randomized custom location. But let's leave this to random chance. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different... We got 5 different options. I'm going to use my old friend random.org. Oh, come on. Gave us 4. We did Tranquil Trailblaze. I randomly select it for just so that I can ignore it. Okay, so let's do something with a lot of rebel camps. So I think Ruthless Opportunity is probably the... Well, okay, Chemical Enterprise or Ruthless Opportunity. It's been a while since we've done both of these, I feel. Well, this says very high rebel camps and heavy aggressive weather. So yeah, we'll do Ruthless Opportunity. One of the most lucrative parts of Titan are also the most dangerous. Only the strongest will be able to protect their cities here. The rest will crumble into the crevices. Behold, it is Contrad Industries with this corporation logo. I don't think I'll enable tutorials this time around, but I should do that again, and I'm not brave enough to do hardcore mode, so we are ready to launch. Companies can afford to shell out for sick adverts, if only the average citizen could actually afford their wares. Or slick adverts. Sick. Companies can afford to shell out for slick adverts, if only the average citizen could actually afford their wares. Okay. So I'll queue up the searches right now. Oh, what am I doing? I'll make these priorities really quick. So I'm using the V key for survey. I definitely recommend in this game learning the hotkeys, which you can get with a simple mouse over, just because there's a lot of clicking, and it will save you, I don't know, to me at least it saves me a bit of frustration. It's not that frustrating to click a mouse, but it just makes you feel like you're putting a lot less work than you would. So, I'm going to take a quick second here.
Hey there, Founder. You caught me in the middle of something. I was just running some tests. Not the air quality tests for our city. I got interns to do those. I mean the other tests. I ever tell you about the other tests? Okay, listen up. You're gonna like this, I think. So you know how Titan has no air quality safety laws? Literally none. All that means that everyone who's not rich enough to buy a high-quality air mask is breathing in really bad stuff. And thanks to the incredibly lax privacy laws here, I'm able to buy a lot of their medical data. I can see exactly where all these citizens live, how much crap they're breathing in, what it's doing to their bodies. It's almost like testing pollutants on live humans. Except I'm not ethically responsible for any of it. It just sort of happens around me. That's really the ideal position for a researcher like me. Anyway, it's why I took the gig here on Titan. No rules. Well, way fewer rules, and nobody's paying attention.
Oh, God, I love that. Okay, so just want to take a quick second here under characters. So under Vern Skull, they added a biography. I can't even remember when this got added, but Faction Landfaller, Position Waste Management Officer, Origin Mars, biography. Vern is a chemist who got into waste management to make money and grew utterly fascinated by the threat, danger, and potential, well, creative uses of industrial waste. Awkward and dry-humored, he wants you to incorporate his strange and dangerous ideas into your city systems. So Vern seemed like kind of a decent guy based on a lot of the dialogue that he would have before. But then I saw, it's not just that it writes strange and dangerous ideas, but it puts it in the highlighted font. So I'm like, oh man, what are these strange and dangerous ideas? And I know there is quite a bit that sort of worked out in the background for Titan. Like I think there's a lot more about how this world works and the relationship of different characters with each other, what the council wants. I think there is actually a fairly deep backstory. And I don't know how much of that we're actually going to wind up ever seeing. Like, some of it might just be something that's sort of informing the dynamics of the game, and we don't necessarily see it. It's not made explicit. But that sort of was another shoe to drop. I was kind of assuming at some point we would learn a little bit more about what those experiments were, and that was a very fun little bit of dialogue. So I suspect this is one of the reasons why I've actually really enjoyed early access in the game, is that I'm sure the full game will be like really fun and interesting to play, but like I get this nice little moment of anticipation for little bits of dialogue like this, and I have a feeling that the payoff of actually finding this out was a bit more rewarding for me, because I've been playing this game for a really long time now, and I actually got to hear exactly the kind of things that Vern is up to. So the other reason why I paused is that I do actually like to change around my priorities. So the basic way that you get started in Industries of Titan is you want to collect the raw materials for building your city corporation. And you have got the resources you have are financial in the form of credits. And then you've got the building blocks, the minerals, and isotopes. Isotopes generally tend to be associated with upgrades, but there are actually a couple of very important starting buildings that will require isotopes. And so they do become quite important early on. Excuse me. And then waste is more of a byproduct of production, and artifacts are very, very important, but they're maybe not necessary for the very start of the game. So one of the first things that I'm going to be doing, I'd say there's three major ways to get the resources that you need. One, you can get them out of ruins. That's probably the least time consuming. You basically just take a ruins, you hit the salvage button, and one of your workers will go in and sort of buzz them down, and what'll happen is the items you want get put on the ground, and then a worker will come and pick them up and move on them anyway, or later. Then you've got resources on the ground. Now you can get someone to just manually mine it, or what you can do is you can actually set up a mining operation, and that will mine these patches a little bit faster. You still need to claim them. And then I don't believe we see any on the map here, but oh nope, actually there's just the outline of one. So this little thing here is an isotope mine. So what you can do is you can build, and it looks like that's a mineral mine as well. So they effectively have an unlimited supply of those resources, but the quality of the deposit will diminish as it gets used. So essentially, as as time goes by, if you build like a really high, kind of a high output mine, you're going to see like the amount that you're generating for any given day is going to be falling over time. And that's kind of the way it is in the real world. I guess in the real world, in the real world, there are definitely points where they stop mining because it's just not, economically viable to get those diminishing returns. Whereas in Titan, either you don't hit that point, or in the lifetime of the game, or the technology just keeps mildly improving to make the mine worth it. But in any case, one of the ways I like to change, so you can definitely tell your workers, you can't micromanage your workers, but you can definitely tell them what to prioritize. And I think the starting priorities generally make a lot of sense. There is one change I like doing though. And basically I kind of like having a starting order. One of the first priorities for me in the opening of a Titan game is to try and make sure that my workers are not staying idle. At the very start of the game, you actually have more workers than jobs, and getting people to investigate to go and investigate ruins and work those tiles is probably one of the best fallback positions. However, you don't want them only focusing on that. So this is where I think having construction above ruins makes a lot of sense, because if you're like, okay, I need you to build a factory so that we can kind of get on with it, that's nice to basically be able to give that order and not have to move around the priorities. The one difference of opinion I have, though, is that survey ruins is at the top, whereas salvaging and extracting are secondary considerations. So this means that my 8 workers are going to go and take a look at all of these. As long as there's a little magnifying glass over the ruins, they're always going to go and investigate those. Even if I say, okay, I want you to go salvage these ruins here. In fact, I'll do that right now. So essentially what would happen is before any of my workers would actually follow through and get me the resources from this tile, they would finish searching the ruins. And these particular ruins actually need to pay a claim cost to be able to get. So the general expectation that I have for myself is when I hit, okay, go get me those resources, that somebody's just going to dutifully go off and claim those resources for me. So what I like to do at the very start, this is just a long way of justifying my choices. For the most part, I'm not going to have a salvage or extract job. They're going to be kind of like repairing and constructing, even dismantling, I suppose. These are going to be things that sort of pop up when I need them. So most of the time, these are going to be idle, and the worker priorities are just going to fall down to the next logical step. So in this case, whereas, surveying ruins, there can be a lot of them, and it's kind of something I want the workers to do when they have the opportunity available. And so I move that elsewhere. There might even be an argument where I say it's like, okay, well, I actually want the survey to be such a background job that I'll even put it below moving resources. But the thing is, there's always going to be more resources to move. So I actually think this placement makes the most sense to me, but with the exception that I put survey below salvaging and extracting. And that's just basically because I've made a decision for a tile. I've probably given up a resource in order to be able to get that tile. And so generally I want people to be a bit speedier in terms of claiming them. So whether you choose to follow that recommendation is sort of up to you. Obviously, the reason why being able to have these priorities exists is so that people can shape the game that the way that they want. But I personally find this a helpful way to align my workers. And I definitely do tend to find that I spend a little bit more time starting my city corp than I should. And so that's one of the things I'm trying to do to make myself a bit better at the game. We've got an inert ruin here, so this will absorb pollution. This is actually not bad for us because there's a lot of zethane, which is going to make the area unpopular. On the other hand, though, like I think this is going to be true for everywhere on this map. Like it does have high crevices, so I have a feeling that our workers are probably going to be unhappy no matter where they go. This is already going to cost me 5 artifacts, so I'm probably not going to be able to take advantage of that anytime soon. I definitely don't think the 1 isotope is sufficient for giving up the ability to destroy or to absorb pollution. So we're gonna pass over that one. This is only minerals, so I will take it for the red. Take this for the red artifact. Same story here. 16 minerals is nothing to sneeze at, but we've just got so many minerals on the ground that we can claim here. It doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense for me to pass up an artifact. But this one's a little bit of a dilemma. So it's 1 artifact, but 6 isotopes. And if you notice, there's not a whole lot of opportunities for isotopes in front of me right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unpause. I can't really build that much until I have, until I actually have some of the factories and that down. So I'm just going to get a little bit of a better idea of what I have available to me before I make some decisions. I am, however, going to start building some of my basics. So, for instance, we'll put down a fuel fabricator. That'll mean when we start moving the minerals, there's going to be a little bit more space for people to work with. And what I'm really interested in here is to see if I can find any tiles that have got isotopes that I would feel... The ideal for me is one with an isotope that doesn't have a red artifact. Those are generally quite rare. So I'll give you an example here. If I were to choose between, this claim or this claim, I would prefer to get the isotopes for... Well, I'd prefer to just extract this for its resources because I'm giving up 1 artifact for a total of 11. There's actually an exchange rate you can work this out for, but let's just say a total of 11 units or construction units worth. Whereas this one, I would be giving up 1 artifact for 9 construction units worth. And in particular, I'm getting half as many isotopes. Isotopes are rare or rarer and, more valuable to me early on. So this makes a little more sense. Also, well, actually, this is a small defect, I suppose. I do generate a bit of waste here, which is close to my base, and it just makes things a little hard to move around, but I can live with that. Okay, so this is a good example. Oh, actually, this is a really good ruin. So 32 minerals and 6 isotopes. This is pretty much an automatic claim. So this probably means that I will take the artifact for this place, but we'll see if we have any other opportunities as far as isotopes are concerned. This is another good one. Nobody's moving the resources because they're busy exploring the ruins, but in this case I've had some pretty good opportunities as far as my resource acquisition is concerned. That's only 1 isotope, so I don't think this is quite worth spending the influence on yet. I'd like to have a better waste management plan in place before I do that. I'm probably going to take this for the red artifact, but I just want to see if there's another chance for me to get some isotopes. So it's only 2 isotopes, but it doesn't generate waste. That's definitely one I'll consider. If I don't have any other better options, we'll work with that. And actually, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to manually assign someone to moving isotopes. Tell you what, I'm actually going to just adjust the priorities. Isotopes are going to decide, or isotopes are going to be used to build some of my really really important first buildings. So I want to assign a higher priority to collecting isotopes so I can make sure I only have so much space in terms of my storage. So I want to make sure that that limited storage space that I have is being, at least part of it is being used for isotopes. Also, I'm going to turn off this fuel fabricator because it's sucking up zethane, but I don't have anything that I need to power right now, and I don't have any minerals to build power center with. So yeah, we're probably going to wind up claiming these ruins here, but we'll see. This is pretty good. It's 9 isotopes, but 15 waste. And again, I have to give up 20 influence for it. A lot of inert ruins. Olaf, how you doing? There is an enemy AI in the game now. Actually, one thing that would be interesting, I don't know if there's a console to like give you sort of God mode to see everything. It'd be neat to see how the AI develops its city core. Okay, so we'll take the 2 isotopes here. That seems to be the safest option. So normally what I like doing is just claiming anything that doesn't involve me giving up red artifacts are usually my first priorities. Now there's a couple that cost 20 in terms of influence, but other than that, I think we've more or less cleared out. I think we've more or less cleared out the low-hanging fruit. I chose to do the normal difficulty here. Yeah, so this is a great example of what I'm talking about. We've got space for 12. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go back to adjusting those priorities. Right now, all of my workers are sitting idle because there's nothing for them to do at this point. Let's think about where we're going to put the factory. This is going to start with basic construction. I guess it doesn't really matter where I wind up putting this stuff. Put one down here, and we'll put the energy pylon down here. I guess that makes the decision for me as far as that. Now, one thing I want to do is start getting a pretty good line of isotopes coming in. So I'm actually going to try saving up my influence so that I can grab an isotope patch. For the time being, though, I'm going to focus more on these details. Hey, brace yourself. Your headphones died so you can't hear, but wanted to pop in and say hi before you head out for the day. So, for those of you who can see the title, that is the same Brace Yourself Games who make this game. And they have a wonderful Twitch channel where you get to see all of the really interesting and very fun people behind industry. Well, not all of them, but most of them will show up on the stream every once in a while. So I definitely recommend checking them out. And yeah, follow their Twitch channel. They've been branching out a little bit, so they don't just play their own games, but they play. You know what? I'm gonna dismantle this right away. It makes a lot more sense for me to put the energy pylon here now that I've doubled these up. But yeah, they've just been playing a bunch of games that are like everything from like Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes to I guess that one they were doing in VR now that I think of it. I'm also going to take a second here to put another storage container down. I'd ideally like to build a medium one, but we'll focus on that later. And I guess I need to put a relay down. I always get this wrong. Okay, so the big thing that I want to do now, I've kind of built up a foundation for my factories and such. Do I want... Yeah, you know what? I am going to double these up. It's a little premature, but... So essentially, I'm just kind of getting some foundations in place for the storage of various items that I need. I also think I'm out of resources. Yeah, so I need to find a source of minerals sooner than I thought I would need. Well, that complicates things. So I can get 52 out of here, but that puts me behind my source for isotopes. I think I can still work with that. Oh, I'm paying salaries. I haven't wasted money on new. So I want to anticipate sort of future expansion. So I'm definitely going to build fuel turbines. There's lots of crevices in the area, and then generally an energy plant follows after that. And I tend to be a little slow in building smokestacks, so I'm actually going to get one of those bought as well. And in this case, we'll just have 680 in the bank to get people's wages covered. So moving on, I've got some minerals sitting in the background here, and what I want to be doing right now... Okay, actually, first thing I want to do is turn the generator and the fuel fabricators on. So basically, in this case, I'm generating a surplus in terms of fuel as well as energy, and I'm loading up the battery and the fuel tank right now. The other important thing that we're going to be doing is building some basics as far as sort of setting up a production line is concerned. So I have kind of this little model that works well for me here. We're going to grab the... So we're going to start refining... We're going to start refining minerals first. And one of the big ideas behind refining in this game is that you've got one construction unit for each tier 1 mineral you get. So the stuff you pick up off the ground is going to get you 1 construction unit's worth. But if you refine that to a tier 2 mineral, each of those items are worth 5 construction units. And if you refine that even further, it's worth another 5. There's a similar story with isotopes. It just winds up being you multiply by 3 each time. So the idea here is that it's kind of like if you were to try to build a factory from individual rocks as opposed to building it from like bricks.
Founder, have you ever gone to one of those council social events with the off-moon industrialists? No, probably not. You're too busy running this city, aren't you? Well, I get invited, and they're agonizing. Oh, you're a miner, they ask. Oh, you dig rocks. How nice. And then I have to say, no, it's a lot more than that. I am a steward of this moon's precious resources. I am the guardian of its golden key, a metaphorical key. Sure, miners on Earth might just dig rocks, but I'm also a structural engineer and a diplomat. Founder,
How do you
keep
do?
an eye out for these foolish off-mooners.
How do you do?
They've been at so
Nox
many
time.
parties, it's suspicious. I think they're in negotiations to outsource some branches of Council Ops. Those new arrivals think they can replace monitors like me, but Titan will defeat them.
Good, good. Do you mind if I ask what kind of paper it was? I completely understand if you don't want to talk about it, but I'm always interested. I started streaming when I was in grad school, so I wanted to. I don't know. It brings me back to the streams of my youth. Okay, so we've got battery drain going on here. This is just because I don't have quite enough as far as my energy grid's concerned to be able to sustain all of this. But that's why we have the battery to give us the flexibility to work with that. So in this case, I'm just gonna patch on another generator when I can. Now we're eventually gonna uproot about. Oh, hang on, is this not on? I thought that was funny that I was generating so much fuel. Your topic is, can abusive relationships create abusive people? But it's supposed to be related to a book that we read, Speak, which takes place in a high school setting, but all the sources were on childhood sexual abuse, not relationship abuse. Okay. So I was originally going to guess if it was English Lit or psychology, but I guess both of those are possible. Or a more specialized field, because I definitely do not know either of those particularly well. I mean, I can work my way around literature if pressed, but... Are the 6 isotopes worth it? Probably not. So... a lot on relationship abuse, but not that many on how victims of them can go on to abuse others. Oh, interesting. I thought that would be like just without any like prior expectation, let's say. I actually would have thought that would be kind of a more well documented topic than it seems to be. 10th grade high school English class, not in college. Oh, okay, fair enough. Sorry, I just immediately assumed that, like, so I got some demographic information from YouTube at one point, and it kind of told me what I sort of suspected, which is that basically people tend to watch people like themselves. So with that in mind, I just kind of assume that everybody who watches my stuff is like an older gamer, basically, like somebody who is either finished their undergraduate or like they're still in school, but they're pursuing sort of a higher level of education. But it's actually turning out that's not a good assumption. Like, just because YouTube gave me that information doesn't necessarily mean that that's necessarily true. But yeah, apologies if I was talking at a higher level to you. I will say though, good on you for actually having the discipline to like get the work done, because that is something that I struggled with, particularly with having the option for gaming. I do notice that I sometimes wish my work ethic was a little bit better, because I do tend to find that there's a lot of stuff that I want to do that winds up sort of set aside because there is sort of a present enjoyment of gaming, let's say, and it hasn't gotten me into too much trouble, but I do think there are some times where I could have gotten some better outcomes if I had been a little bit more disciplined, let's say. So it's like, just because a lot of online entertainment is really, really easy to sort of suck up your time, I actually really admire people who are able to sort of draw those lines and make sure that they kind of double down on the work that they need to do. Very recently started taking your work more seriously and actually doing it after your mom got COVID and you missed a week of school. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope everybody is okay as a result of that. I'm actually going to spend a minute to just talk a little bit about some next steps for my City Corp. But I also just need a second here to see what's going on in headquarters. Okay, those are full up. Okay, that's good. But yeah, no, it's a good one. Like I said, I was kind of lucky where I was able to sort of do all right. Like, I think this is one of the problems, is that sometimes you can be like not bad at school or not bad at like the thing that you're doing, and one consequence of that is you maybe phone in it a little bit more than you should because, you know, you just find this stuff easy. Whereas what you ideally would do is you double down on your advantage, and you would you know, you just try and take that to new heights. But it's hard, right? Like sometimes you just want to relax. Okay, so there's one really cool thing that Industries of Titan does, which is you get a full refund on your buildings if you dismantle them. So I said this is a city builder, but it's actually, as you can see, quite a bit more than that. There's a micro and a macro level to this game. So what you usually start off with is designing at a very small scale inside of the factories. But what you'll notice is that what I was doing here, I was talking about refining those. I was talking about refining the building or the resources. You know, I gave that analogy. You know, if you build a factory out of individual stones, or you build a factory out of bricks, or, you know, pick your favorite building material, you're going to find one easier to build than another. And particularly for precise machinery, like if you wanted to try and build a fuel turbine, if you're building that with rocks out of the ground, you're going to have a considerably harder time than if you're building it out of, you know, steel. So you'll notice here, if you take a look under the mineral CUs, that's construction units, it says that it costs 5 CUs. Now, right now, if I go over dismantle, I only had tier 1 minerals, but you can sort of pull yourself up by your bootstraps in this game. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to dismantle the employee module. And the reason I'm going to do that is I've got 7 tier 2 minerals, and those tier 2 minerals are worth 5 construction units each. So that means that I can get those 5 tier 1 minerals back. They'll go into my storage, and then I can put them back into the machine and turn them into tier 2s, and then eventually into tier 3s. And so one way that you can sort of maximize the resources that you originally claimed is to just make sure where you can, you upgrade your existing buildings. I get a little obsessive about this, and it actually probably slows my progress more than it should. But I actually think this is a nice little trick, because what you can do if you really maximize your individual units, you know, you get to the situation where you have a bunch of tier 1s coming in, but you've got enough sort of tier 3 to get you by, that you start making deals with the council, and, you know, you just trade minerals for influence instead of something like red artifacts. So what I do want to focus on, though, now is you'll notice that I don't really have any good resources for isotopes, and I don't have any in my I don't really have anything in my storage right now, but that's because one of them is being refined up to a tier 2. So I want to try and get a reliable source of isotopes for the next little while, even if it just means so that I can upgrade them. And in this case, claiming the isotopes patch is the best thing for me to do. The reason why I was sitting on this influence for such a long time was because this is actually relatively expensive. Influence in Industries of Titan is sort of this currency that... This is actually a really neat idea that basically... I kind of take this as the whole system of like lobbying and just otherwise like trying to persuade or get the attention of the council. The council has so many demands of it, and it has an opportunity to, you know, to basically, you know, achieve its own goals, that they have actually turned this whole process into a tradable commodity. So instead of it just being one of these things where you'll put a lot of resources in and sort of you have this intangible idea, right? You know, so you know that you are going to have yourself heard about this zoning regulation or this, you know, banking reform, that you're going to, you know, make sure that it doesn't affect this particular line of business, let's say. Industries of Titan has actually turned it into a commodity so that if you've earned influence, you would be able to exchange it with someone else for something. And in this particular case here, because we're trying to get the land on Saturn's moon, Titan, in this case, we're spending the influence to get this this thing of value from the council. The other reason why this is an attractive option for the isotopes patch here, one, I don't have to give up the red artifacts and such. But two, it's actually a patch near the crevice. So for the next one, even though this is a 20, I'm actually probably going to wind up claiming this resource here just because it's close to something that will be getting me the... excuse me. Sorry. It's actually close to something that's going to be getting me a little bit more fuel than any of my alternatives. So I may change my mind on that later, but this is an obvious choice here, and it gives my employees something to do. Yeah, sorry. Okay, back to work. So, like I said, I'm gonna try and focus on upgrading what I can. I can't quite afford to dismantle everything. But if I get a chance to, you know, get a good head start on it, let's say, I'll run with it. So this is currently disintegrating the isotope, so I need to wait a little while on this one. You do have the option of discarding, but particularly for isotopes, this is really valuable, so... Oh, nuts, they put it in a little too fast. So I'll dismantle the output, just because I can. Like I said, the drawback with this approach is that and actually, I'm gonna try and be a little more on top of my resources. So I'm going to turn the fuel... Excuse me. I'm going to try... I'm going to try to be a bit better. Is there a reason? No, not really. Well... Yeah, it's less of a fuel drain, actually, if I do it that way. I'm just going to try and, like, charge and fall a little bit more often. I don't want to get to a point where we get to, like, 0, but being able to... Oh, what's happened here? Ah, we don't have storage space anymore. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the headquarters. We're not quite ready for the big one that I wanted to build, but... Well, I guess I kind of have to. And actually, while I'm at it, I gotta turn the power back on. Turn on, damn you. All right. So this is just so we can get the stuff that we need back where it needs to go. Actually, this is 12, this is 48, so I'm actually going to dismantle these in favor of other items. Okay. So, I was a little foolish in how I divided my attention on some of this. So right now I only have one tier 2 mineral right now. So a few little things like the waste module and all of that, it's going to take... Ooh, that's bad. Okay, we're in better shape, actually. I think I'm going to try sticking one of these over here. I might get this, I might have this wrong. Whoa! I forgot that happens. So every once in a while there's earthquakes. Oh god, that looks really cool at night. I'm actually gonna see, can we get a good like photo mode shot of this? I don't have that impressive of a city corp to take a photo of, but if I can get the crevices in the background. Yeah, there's too many ruins. By the way, for those of you that are kind of interested in terms of how companies are organized, I believe some of these nice sort of like lighting effects and all of that are a consequence of Brace Yourself doing sort of a like, I guess for lack of a better term, I feel like I've been working counter to I'm just going to move. I'm going to change one thing at a time until I learn how this works. But yeah, so Brace Yourself has been doing sort of like a Friday that's more of a free day. I think it winds up being like 20% time, but it's sort of focused on the one day. And there's been some really impressive stuff that seems to have come out of it. So I know Alexa did this really good spider model in Blender, I believe. But one thing that I think I'm trying to remember where I heard this, but like these nice little light effects that you see from all of the buildings, I believe that is actually something that came as a result of some of the little experimental projects that people were doing out of that. And I think that looks great. So I don't think I'm gonna get the beautiful shot that I wanted, but just all the color on Titan, particularly with the voxel art, you know, being able to actually, you know what, maybe we do a good like working man kind of photo. Is there something we can maybe oh, nope. That's as close as I'm gonna get. Nuts. So I figure one way we could focus on the worker would be to vignette, but then the drawback is that we lose so much of that nice purple background. We can go the opposite and max saturation. Anyways, this is a beautiful looking game, so obviously being able to play around with photo mode is a tremendous temptation. For those of you who have seen how ridiculous I can get with photo mode, I highly recommend you check out my Rebel Galaxy Outlaw stuff, because I feel like I spent a little too much time in the photo mode there. Okay, I'm going to add another waste receptacle because we're generating a lot of waste. I don't think I can afford to demolish this waste module, but what I am going to do is I'm actually going to uproot the relays. So I haven't lost my mind. There are actually some specific things I'm trying to do with these. And this will cost me 10. So we need the processing to happen, but okay, so again, this is just a chance for me to make a little bit more of my tier 1 and tier 2 resources. So I can't discard the contents of this processor yet, so we'll let this run normally. But I guess I can at least get a start on my tier 3 refining. Now, when I need more fuel and more power, probably should have paid closer attention to what I needed power-wise. Actually, no, hang on. I want these off because I should be drawing down the battery. That's going to run down really quick, but... And to make life a little easier for me, I'm going to... Okay, so I'm going to turn off the mineral input for now. Oh, I gotta get back to HQ. That's too slow. Okay, nuts. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to clear out the oh, I have to finish the disintegration first. I really do need to think this through. So I need the employee to process the material. What I'm trying to do, though, is I'm trying to... This is what I get for trying to be clever. Okay, now it's ready to dismantle. Now I can shut this off. And this is basically just so that I can save a little bit in terms of my minerals. Oh, I'm out of space, aren't I? I was hoping to avoid that. This will be a temporary one. So all this basically exists so that I can generate a bunch of tier 2 minerals. Like in this case, I've just been sort of falling over myself. I've been adding inefficiencies rather than removing them. But the idea here is just to try and get myself to a point where I'm building sort of these high value resources a bit faster than I normally would. Now, at some point, I'm going to want to build another factory so that I can have regular workers. We're a little short in terms of options. I actually think I'm probably just going to build a normal factory right here. I definitely need to make sure that this is temporary. Actually, you know what? Let's cancel that. No, actually, sorry. Further away. Yeah, this makes sense. Okay. So we are on track. I do eventually want to get those tier 3s up and running, but let's get our waste under control first. So I'll give you an idea in terms of where this is all heading. So what I spent some money on earlier was a fuel turbine and an energy plant. Now, if you look at the cost for a fuel turbine, it's 200 mineral CUs. Energy plants also have 200 mineral CUs. So these are very expensive undertakings. The good news is, though, they generate a lot of fuel and energy, and so once you get one of those things built, you're usually in a pretty good position so far as your ability to just kind of get things done on Titan. So what I kind of want to do is I want to start working towards building those tier 3 minerals as soon as I can, just so I can basically take advantage of those really efficient generators. And so in this case here, you can sort of see the basic plan. Okay, I build my way up to those tier 2s. Now that I've built the tier 2s, I need to save up to get that level 2 processor, which costs 50 construction units. You can kind of see that I'm already laying the groundwork there, although I do need to make sure that I'm taking care of my waste needs as well. I also think I messed up the ordering on this a little bit, but that's fine. We'll deal with that later. I'm also going to be a little silly and actually put the rest of the infrastructure... Yeah, I was off by 1 on these curses. I wonder if I can get away with... Oh, I hate that I'm doing this, but I'm going to.
Hey, Founder! Great to see your smiling face. How are you doing? It looks like you're doing great, honestly. Throwing up structures, clearing off territory, that makes for a lot of busy hands. Employees will get the job done for you, of course, but don't forget about the people working behind the scenes. People like me and my citizen staff, we keep the employees functioning properly. Between you and me, Founder, converted employees don't know the difference between a hairbrush and a pack of grub. So we monitor their vitals, make sure they have enough biofuel to keep their performance high. And some of us even have to log in from time to time and take direct control, upload new work routines, that sort of thing. It's essential work, Founder, and nothing makes me feel better than doing essential work. That's what keeps workers motivated, you know? The knowledge that their labor is essential. It provides a kind of motivating pressure. I'm sure you're feeling some of that pressure yourself.
I messed up this placement. I actually think I got this wrong, so I should, I'll take the cautious route. So I think of this place, in this case here, I think I'm just going to wait for the 50 construction units worth of minerals, just so I can get a better idea of what's happening with this, device. I don't think it should take too long. In the meantime, I should probably also think about where I'm going to get my my next batch of artifacts from. What I like doing is where I can, anything that I can get from like a value 10 claim, if I can get 2 or more artifacts, I tend to prioritize those. Now, another argument I could make would be to try and take the last of these like 20, size 20 ruins to be able to claim the salvage, and then that's the last of sort of my raw resources. There's actually something of an argument for doing that now that I think of it. So what gives me the most in terms of isotopes? Well, that one's 30, so that's not a non-starter. Yeah, this is okay. The only thing that bothers me is the waste, because it's gonna take us a while to build a waste or a smokestack, but I can work with that. Okay, we're ready for our next level 2 process, or well, our next processor, the level 2 processor. And we've got 5 left, so I will build a waste module here. You started a new playthrough on Stellaris. Haven't made any progress yet on month 6. Militarist xenophile democracy. Interesting. One does not generally associate militarism with democracy, but that's why Stellaris is interesting, because you get to do that kind of science fiction. And that's a species that you created on your own, I take it? I'd love to know how your playthrough winds up. Cool. The Vecanites, or yeah, I think it's Vecanites. Pronunciation is yours. Actually, one thing that's kind of fun in the codex, if you go under glossary, so I've since fallen into the Zethane camp because there's just been all of the characters pronounce it this way, but geologists have found that Zethane did not always exist on Titan. In fact, it seems to have been introduced by the civilization that left the ruins behind. How it's produced and why it's now in such abundance is a mystery beyond anyone's ken, as is its official pronunciation. But its bountifulness and its use as fuel is the key to Titan's continued success, and so most are just thankful for its existence. Desert preference, but half habitable. Okay, cool, yeah. So basically the way that, this is all explained in tutorials, by the way. I'm actually doing a pretty rotten job of explaining all of this. But basically, you can take an overlay for Zethane. So this will kind of show you where the deposits are, and then there's a certain amount, so 30%, 0.28. Oh yeah, I was actually going to start taking note of certain extraction amounts. I'll do that in a little bit. But basically, we've got 3052 in this area here, whereas the crevice has got 43.82. And because it's a crevice, it generates, 100% compared to, I don't think we have any sinkholes that I can use for comparison. But basically, the stuff you will use for fuel gets pulled out of the air in the world of this game. And so what you have to do is basically you need to extract fuel for use in your industrial processes. That fuel goes into your generators. I'm curious why I've assigned someone to cleaning waste, but it doesn't actually see... Oh, you know what? How much you want to bet that they are working on that waste right now? Yep, they're just taking their time. Okay. There are going to be some... There's going to be a bit of tricky business so far as managing my power. We're going to set up for the next batch of... devices. Now, one thing I want to just check here. Sorry, I was talking about how power works. So in this case, the rates are the same. 1 fuel for 3 power. So the best thing for me to do right now is just make another small generator. Now, I'm going to dismantle all of this stuff eventually. But for the time being, this is just going to get me... This is just going to get me the resources that I need to build what I actually want to build. And of course, we have a little time before all of this is extracted anyway, so it doesn't hurt to take this approach. Okay, we'll say you are mineral 3 only for now. So one of the things I'm gonna do... Oh god, I did it again. Last time I do that. Okay, so basically, like, so I need to deal with the waste. I've got somebody who's cleaning that up now. I also need to deal with the sort of the transition of tier 2 minerals into tier 3 minerals. And I'm trying to get those specifically up to 200 if I can to build that fuel turbine. But as an intermediate step, I will build a better fuel fabricator and energy generator. So as a start, again, I wanted to take some notes of... Why does the device complete go with the beat? So that is the musical gifts of Danny Baranowski, closely working with Power Up Audio to make sure that the timing works so well. So the overall plan that I've got here. So I want to build a large generator, which is going to take up 3 fuel and generate 9 energy. But what I also want to do is upgrade the fuel fabricator. So I can put a large fuel fabricator, which has got a zethane absorption rate of 0.3, but it costs 10 mineral construction units. So essentially what I want to do is this should, in theory, it won't exactly triple, but this should give me a little bit more flexibility in terms of the fuel that I'm pulling out of the atmosphere. And I'll use that to support, instead of 3 small generators like this, I'll be using it to support this large generator. And then it should give me some flexibility. I should actually be able to throw a couple of extra devices in the factory when the time comes. But that's all contingent on me actually being able to build all this stuff. So I've got almost enough for the large generator. We've got a battery going right now, so how about I just get rid of the one device that's in the way for starters. So we can afford to zap you. The large fuel fabricator, I'm going to need to get this generator out of the way as well. It's a little more battery drain than I want to see, if I'm completely honest, but... Well, you know, we'll just accept the loss if it comes down to it. Okay. And eventually the rest of this is gonna get taken down as well, but again, the priority is the large generator right now. And yeah, we're out. Actually, honestly, at this point, just shut it all down. These are tier 1, aren't they? Yeah, so I can clear these as well. Or do I have tier... I've got 1 tier 2, so there's going to be... oh, I really sunk myself on that, actually. Okay, well... I'll work that out later. Yeah, so this is where I want... Ah. So this also allows me to build a large storage. So we are out of storage for the fuel, so I'm actually in a position... So these are tier 1s, I can handle that. So I need this thing to get built before I go any further on dismantling, I think. Actually, no, this will get built no matter what, so... Oh, but the one thing I forgot to do was look at the fuel generated. I'll do a rough heuristic saying... So we know for sure in this case we're generating Zethane factor, fuel. So I'll say we're about 3 at 2774 for the one. Obviously that wasn't exactly what the number should be, but it's going to be close enough for me to figure that out. Okay, so the reason why I just kind of dismantled all of that stuff and then rebuilt it was, again, just mostly trying to take advantage of the efficiency in terms of my my resources. But what this is also going to do is this is going to allow me to make just a couple of changes in terms of the types. Like, I'm going to be able to put like certain battery, or sorry, I'm going to be able to focus on like maximizing my battery and my fuel storage. So for instance, this relay here works really well because I can stick, so I can put 2 big fuel tanks on the edges here. I can stick 1 battery in the corner here. I can probably stick a couple batteries on the edges here, and then battery, and then we can put a couple extra fuel turbines in here. There used to be a version of this where I would put like waste receptacles, but I actually try to keep the waste receptacles near the road now. Now... This is kind of chugging along, but if I wanted to turn on other modules, we'd be in a bit of trouble. So do I want to try and... Oh no, actually there's one thing I want to do first, and that is replace these processors. So I can't replace the level 2 quite yet, but we'll work on it. Again, getting those basic resources. I think there's only one more building. Yeah, this one. So now any... Oh, nope, sorry. There's another ruins here. Once that one's gone, everything else is just going to be about... Oh, nope, there's also... well, I guess we can get those minerals now. The rest of this is just going to be about acquiring red artifacts. Oh, God. The more I look, the more there are of these. I am eventually going to need to train some more employees, but let's focus on the task at hand. So I need 50, I can get 50, I just need to wait for the processor to finish. So we'll turn off the mineral input module. also going to need to build more waste receptacles soon. Actually, I'll get that done now. Okay. Okay, so we're ready to go here. We'll turn this all back on when we can, but for the time being, I'll keep it off just so I can preserve my resources. Okay, so basically my whole production line now is built with the most efficient allocation of resources that I can get at the moment. I do actually want to work out a receptacle for my tier 3 isotopes when the time comes, but I'm short on tier 2s at the moment. Okay, no, we just discovered a bunch of them. Okay, so there's my wall of garbage. Here is the storage. I may change the placement of this. So the idea is that this little area in the back here, if I need to, is going to be a source for additional energy and fuel extraction, but I have a feeling we're going to be able to get by without it. So the big goal right now is going to be to basically just get the production line running to a point where I'm able to get that fuel turbine up and running. So we are 75 minerals away from being able to accomplish that. Once the fuel turbine's up, we can start building the energy generator. And then once the energy generator is up, we basically don't have power needs anymore. Like we technically have the power needs, just we'll have more than we really know what to do with. In fact, I can hold off on on building the generator because I can use the fuel to just power a bunch of generators on this side here, and then I can dismantle them later. And then once I have that extra power, I'm going to be able to keep all of these modules online, and then I'm going to be able to focus more on building the work environment, because I am going to run out of credits for workers, and we're definitely at a point where I want to be pursuing that a little more aggressively. It is also worth noting on the right-hand side of the screen, we've got a rebel threat meter that basically is tied to the net worth of my company, which is something that you will have reported to you at the end of the game when you win, or potentially when you lose. And basically, at certain intervals, the AI is going to send ships to blow up your city corp. Now, this is important for me because I didn't put any money towards defending myself. I don't have the ability to build ships, and I don't have the ability to build turrets. So I did that on the assumption that I'm going to be able to build one of those two things in the future. But if I want to be able to do that in the future, I am going to need money in order to be able to buy those buildings. So I've got the foundation for it here. I have what I call the work from home setup. And we're going to see that come into play in a little bit. But the first thing I want to do is get that fuel turbine built. So we've got 200 minerals. I'm going to switch to tier 2 isotopes. So in this case, we basically spend, not 4, 8 of the mineral CUs and then 1 of the tier 2 isotopes. To me, it doesn't really matter if I put it here or here. I think the zethane amount, this one technically has a little more, I suppose. But eventually they're going to be doubled up. So I place that down here. You need to have one worker that goes in and works the tile. But essentially what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of zethane that I generate as a result, or, well, fuel that I generate from the zethane when this fuel turbine is worked. And that's going to allow me to build extra generators to take care of all that other stuff that I want to be doing. Speaking of that other stuff I want to be doing, let's keep working on those tiles that I want to clear out. So we've got 10... Okay, it looks like it's actually just 10 in terms of influence to get raw materials, and then we can start working on these tiles. Mind you, we'll get access to some more in a little bit. It did also occur to me that I have what I need as far as the tier 3 minerals are concerned. So I'm going to turn off the mineral input here. Oop, actually that's always been off apparently. I'm going to switch it towards isotopes. And then I'm going to turn on the isotope. Okay, actually, you know what? We're going to turn off all of these for the time being. So this will just save me a little bit of power. That's not the main motivator, but it's just I want to have the tier 2 minerals for other construction. I'll actually get the basics of that down now. So battery, 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 and a couple of fuel tanks. There we go. So basically, this is kind of the most crowded headquarters I can get with all of the devices. And now I'm going to turn my attention to my work from home setup. So there's actually I think I've got a building blueprint already set up here, but I don't have the resources for it. So we're gonna construct it sort of from scratch. So I need power. So I'll put the energy bridge here, and then we put a relay down. And we've already used up all our tier 5 minerals, or tier 2 minerals. So I'm just going to leave those be for now. Those will generate slowly over time. Basically, the dependency on that's really just going to be the ability for my workers to sort of move from one task to the other. I might even actually at this point, it's occurred to me that probably the dedicated worker cleaning waste is not going to be cleaning this waste, but rather they're going to be going out and bringing waste from the outside world into the factory, which is not what I want to do. I'd actually like to minimize the amount of external waste that's getting cleaned up. Okay. So I am a little curious in terms of the numbers that we get here. So fuel turbine has a fuel absorption factor of 1. And it's generating 18 or 17 or 18. So you'll notice here, right, we've got more fuel than we know what to do with right now, and so this gives me a chance to play around in my home factory. So this works out really nice as far as the power is concerned, but like this is going to generate 9 power, which is more than enough for me to be able to kind of keep all of this stuff running. I am going to have more. I'm going to have a little bit more in terms of needs, but for the time being, I think probably what I can get away with would be maybe a little something like this. I can't put a small one inside. I mean, like, I might be able to if I messed around with the waste receptacles, but I really don't want to mess with that any more than I have to. So, you know, I could put other things in here. Actually, a good use for it probably would be just fuel tanks. There we go. I don't have Disney Plus Noxcam, so I actually haven't seen The Mandalorian either, but from what I understand, they are very, very good shows. So I am interested. It's just a question of whether or not I'm going to be able to have access to it. I get, you know, what I think it comes down to is, do I have a friend who's willing to let me watch it with them? I mean, I'll admit, I haven't seen the new, like, so the last Star Wars film I saw was one of the prequel films. I think it was like the Revenge of the Third, episode 3 they call it. So it's been a while. I'm out of the loop. I'd really like to see Rogue One, but there's quite a bit of Star Wars that I need to get through. So I think they got like Ewan McGregor's playing Obi-Wan, right? Like they got him back for that series. Again, I haven't been following it too closely just because I've just got so much to do. But I know there used to be a stigma for like major actors doing television. It was kind of considered a lesser job, and that has definitely gone away. I have a feeling money was probably a big part of that, but I also think just the type of television that's getting made has made it a bit more of a prestige gig. Okay, so we still got some money available to us. Now, we can't actually bring workers in yet. We do need to unlock the spaceport, but that's easy to do. It costs us 3 artifacts. So the way that spaceport... Actually, you know what? Let's let Erlen Fletch explain this.
Space station operations. Are you the replacement? Oh, never mind. You're the new founder, right? I'm Erlen Fletch, the local spaceport operator. But you can call me Fletch.
He's a smooth operator.
No? The space station is, well, it's right above you. Council operation, low-level orbit. Every few cycles, the Council arranges for a new set of trade ships to dock up here. They're carrying cargo and migrants, ready to head down to spaceports all over Titan's surface. You can find the spaceport in your city view. I hope you last longer than the last founder the Council sponsored. Seriously, it's rough out here.
So I saw... So apparently there was some input that got worked. So let's turn the output on. I'll get the employee working it. But I'm going to turn off the mineral input. So again, just keeping an eye on my energy usage. So I've currently got 4 of surplus, a surplus of 4. I'm gonna need at least 3 for handling the existing infrastructure that I have. So basically, I've got an extra 1 unit. So that's gonna sustain another habitat pod. So basically, I can have up to 6. I can have up to 6 employees here. But mind you, 2 of them are going to be unemployed for the time being. Now, I have other ways of generating power, so I'm not too worried about that. The big thing right now is just getting a ship on the... So the important thing here is that the way that sort of citizens work in Industries of Titan. So you've got 2 types of people who are going to live on Titan. You've got citizens, who are basically people like you or me, and they will go to their habitat pod or their apartment complex to go to sleep.
Founder, I was just at the advisor off-site retreat. We went to a trendy new restaurant, ordered some drinks, had some laughs. You have a group of experienced pros behind you, Founder, and 1 child. That power engineer is very young. However, it makes sense in a way. You can hire young talent much cheaper than experienced veterans. Hiring Ayana must have saved the Council quite a bit in startup costs for this venture. On the other hand, looks like they really splurged hiring that Admiral. I found her rates on the network. Oh, they are high. She has a long and successful combat CV, and she's worth every credit. It makes me wonder, though, if I was the Council and I was spending most of my hiring budget on military, it's probably because I expect to fire a lot of guns, let's say. They must be expecting stiff rebel resistance. That's a big tip, Founder. If you can see someone's budget, if you can see how they're staffing, you know what they're thinking. And the Council is probably thinking our city's gonna get shot up.
I'm glad he's got the right spirit about that. So yeah, we are at 50. Actually, that's kind of interesting. I wonder if that's triggered specifically because of the threat level. So anyways, we were dividing our city between citizens and employees. So we now have citizens here. So they're going to sleep in their habitat pod during the leisure hours. And we've got workers. So what happens here is you build workers from citizens. The workers basically are, they don't have emotions or really any intellect. They're sort of more machine now than man, twisted and evil, except the evil bit. So basically you have to pay for the workers, but the citizens will generate revenues, so they will work these monetization stations. I'm going to be a bit of a jerk, and I'm going to turn off the home, and that's just to save the energy costs. But yeah, basically the idea is I want to have enough citizens in place to be able to sort of support a larger workforce. Oh, hang on, I messed up. So I built this generator and it's taking up fuel, but it's not actually hooked up to the grid. But we can fix that. I am, however, going to need more waste receptacles. Okay, I guess you can have a little power. Okay, so we'll take our conversion capsule. I don't really want to spend a tier 3 on this, but it is 6 CUs, so I'm gonna do it. And I'll put a couple waste receptacles down here. But yeah, so part of the game right now is just for me to have enough citizens to support a growing workforce, both in terms of providing me the raw materials to create that workforce, but also providing me the bodies that'll turn into workers, but also to be able to get the dollar value up. So like right now, in terms of paying for workers, I'm spending 320 for my workers, and my income right now is 384. So I'm basically getting another 60 credits in my bank account. At the end of the day, we're going to be at 104. But it cost me 1,000 to be able to. It cost me 1,000 to be able to build or to buy a new building. So what I want to be doing here is generating a big surplus of citizens and places for them to work, basically so that I can buy defensive structures and build them. And again, we're past the 50% mark, so I want to be able to. I want to be sure that I'm able to build those reasonably quickly. Also, I need to get a smokestack built at some point, but we'll worry about the smokestack later. Like, the trash is piling up, so I do need to start getting rid of that, but I'm going to prioritize citizens for a little bit. Okay, were there any other free slots for... No, everything else would be a red artifact, which is not bad. So we've got 44 minerals, 24 for isotopes. I think we should probably claim... Yeah, we'll wait the 2 influence. I'm just going to keep plugging away at the... Hello, we are draining batteries. It's inconvenient, obviously, because we've got more fuel than we really know what to do with. And I did just use my last 3... Oh, hang on. That'll be easy. We just turn off the conversion center. Okay. Sorry, I'm definitely feeling a bit groggy as far as the evening is going, but I should be able to see this through. So once the next migrant ship comes in, so right now we've got four citizens and room for 12. So as long as the ship has 8 or fewer potential migrants, we can bring them in. I never did let Erlen explain how the acquisition works, so we will do that call now. We will do that call now. We will do that call now. I don't think Erlen wants to talk to us. So basically, the way that it works is you can use influence. So you've got the spaceport up above. I believe the implication is that the migrants are not necessarily, like, their destination is not necessarily Titan. They don't necessarily want to be going there. And what you are doing is you are spending influence to redirect these ships. So in this case, Mori vessels have a unique feature which allows the captain to explosively jettison all cargo, including passengers. So we'll bring them in. So we've got 6 new citizens who are on their way to our little work from home setup here. So that does leave me short. I still need 2 more bodies, and then I can build a couple more habitat pods, obviously. But in this case here, I need to we've got a little bit extra cash that we're going to be generating, but we're still not quite at the point where I'm going to be able to buy the shipyard or the defense turret. One thing I am going to do, though, is slightly adjust my production priorities. Okay, so I don't quite get what's happened here. Ah, okay. Well, that was easy. So I'm going to be adding the isotope module as part of the system. Now, again, we're in a little bit of a tricky position as far as our energy is concerned, because we've got a lot of fuel, but we also need to be able to we need to be able to power all this stuff we want to do. The good news is we are on our way to building a tier 3. Actually, you know what? We can just turn everything on. I don't exactly want to close off the... Actually... Nope, this can still work. I maybe don't want to do that with the other side, but... I'm going to get these remaining pods in place before I run out of opportunities. Oh, so close. This is going to have a massive effect on the energy demand, but we are going to be building a large generator. Yeah, we're already there. We're also going to have more opportunities for large generators once I upgrade my headquarters, but I need just a little bit more. I can't bring bodies in yet. So I'm just waiting for one of these tier 2 minerals to show up. So what's happening in my factory So I've turned on the isotope and the mineral module on these sides. Have I used up all my tier 1s? Nope. Why isn't this full then? Anyway, what I want to do is I want to move the isotopes up to tier 3s, so they're worth 9 each. And the reason for doing so is that I can upgrade buildings. Particularly, I want to upgrade my headquarters. So when I have 27 isotope CUs, which in this case would just be 3 tier 3s, I'm going to be able to upgrade it, and it gives me a lot of advantages. So it expands my my reach. It expands my sensor range, so I have a better idea of what's around me. It also improves my the number of employees that I can host. So basically, the nice sort of side effect of upgrading the headquarters is that you're able to accomplish more. And this is one of the reasons why I'm focusing so much on getting those tier 3s up, even though it's costing me in terms of like energy, and I'm not being as quick in terms of generating my minerals and so on and so forth. Being able to upgrade the headquarters... Oh, sorry, the other thing that it gives me is another floor. So one thing that I can do with that other floor is stuff like this generator here. I can dismantle that and stick the generators on their own floor on the... like the upgraded headquarters. We'll see that in a little bit, but for now, I'm just focused on getting whatever migrants I can. Again, the more bodies I can put into the city corp, the better at this point. The side of me that wants to just stick a bunch of waste receptacles inside here, but I'll hold off on the temptation for the next little bit. So the big thing that's happening with this this little production line right here is that we've got outputs which are sort of staying unclaimed, so that stops the rest of the chain from going through. Now this is good news here. So this is a tier 2 isotope that's going to work its way through the system. I actually don't think I put... Oh, shame on me. Okay, I actually didn't put a place for tier 2 isotopes, and that's a big blunder. So what's going to happen is basically somebody's going to have to pick this up and walk it all the way around to another location. I'm actually going to enable this for tier 2 for... Oh, I think somebody already took it. Oh, but we've got our tier 3 anyway, so that's not the end of the world. So once an employee picks up... But yeah, so basically you can see, though, when you've got something in the output module, basically if you have something sort of holding up the rest of the procedure, it can be pretty devastating to your efficiency, which obviously is a big kind of appeal of these kinds of games. So I got the 3 isotopes that I needed. That was the real goal. And again, one thing I'm doing here... So just remember back with the fuel turbine, we needed to assign an employee to it. So essentially I've got 7 employees doing jobs for me. And in practice, I actually only have 6 because one of them is currently working this isotopes patch. So it's only... Those 6 have to do everything else. They need to move the minerals, they need to move the isotopes, they need to clean the waste, all of that. It's not an ideal situation for me to be in. So if I can avoid, there's two things that I can do to sort of improve the overall efficiency of my city corp. One is to, I forgot how much of my energy. I shouldn't have done that during the workday because that's actually going to affect my ability to earn money, but it's too late. It's kind of like, it's like any kind of a business decision, right? You can earn more money or you can cut back on costs. It's kind of the two big things that you can do. And in this case here, I can say, well, I've got, so like basically I'm saying is like, okay, it's taking a really long time to get stuff done. Why is it taking a long time to get stuff done? Well, I only have so many workers and they're all kind of overwhelmed. So I can try doing less. Well, that's not conducive to growth. So I definitely don't want to do less in this game. I could choose to, I could say it's like, okay, well, how about I just build a whole bunch more employees? Like, well, I could do that, but if I do that, I need to pay for those employees. And right now I'm trying to earn enough money to be able to buy a big turret or to build a big ship to shoot down the rebels with. So I don't necessarily want to, I don't necessarily want to do things that will result in me earning less money. And right now, I mean, I've only got this one sort of tier 3 factory, which is already full up. So, well, I mean, we've got room for 2. Ah, here we go. So instead what I want to do is I want to make sure I have as many employees as I can working on the tasks I want them to do. And in this particular case, it means that instead of building a energy plant, which is going to cost me 200 construction units of minerals, it's going to take up an employee. The good news is it's going to generate 48 energy, so I don't need to really worry about power for a while after that. But I do so by giving up a sixth of my workforce right now, or like as it currently stands. So that's a little too high, in my opinion, for the cost of being able to get something. So my alternative was to upgrade my headquarters. So I should, yeah, I've actually got a pretty healthy amount for the minerals. I'm going to be building medium generators for a reason that will be pretty clear. Okay, so I can get away with 4 of these. I'm gonna go to tier 2. Oh, I can't do tier 2. Well, I can, but okay. I'm actually gonna put my hand on the scales a little bit. We're gonna turn off the mineral side of the equation. Yeah. So notice here, right? This energy relay is going to be covering all of the power generation. I still need to put down an energy bridge, but we'll get that soon. Now, normally I'd like to build a bunch of batteries in this situation. I may change that because we're also short on waste. Well, no, I don't put waste in the headquarters, so I think I'll just build another batch of garbage bags or garbage cans. So if I wanted, I could buy a building right now, but I wouldn't have enough money to pay my employees. So I am going to be nice, and we'll let the end of the workday come up. But next pay period, we'll have enough to buy what we want. It still isn't in the main grid, but now we add it. Still working on improving our isotopes. And again, this is just, it's nice to just naturally keep refining your goods. I tend to, I just tend to find, like, the worst that happens is you have all of your tier 1s become tier 3s. And at that point, it just means that, you know, when you're building something very simple, you wind up using a full tier 3 resource. But if you were at a point where you had like 0 isotopes or 0 minerals and everything was being moved up to tier 3, like the idea of that kind of waste, well, what else were you doing with the time? Like, you were already wasting your resources because you weren't, like, you just didn't have anything to refine, is kind of my view on that. So in this case here, we've got the energy bridge, everything's hooked up now, so eventually I'll fill this full of like batteries and such, but what I really wanted to do was just end that, I wanted to end that power drain that we had. So now I can turn on the conversion capsule. Can actually afford to convert a couple people now that will be able to build a new building. Oh, but we don't have artifacts, right? So I'm gonna have to deal with that. I actually think now is probably the time I want to go a little artifact happy. Although if I wait for... Okay, so I wasn't planning on doing it this way, but this works pretty well for me. A couple updates ago, they added artifact patches. So much like minerals and isotopes, you're going to be able to mine out artifacts in addition to taking them out of ruins. Now, ruins, in my opinion, are the fastest way to get any given resource. It can sometimes be costly in the terms of things like waste, but generally if you want to get something really quick, it's really hard to be faster than claim a plot, hit the extract button, and walk away with the goods. But in this particular case here, if I take a look at the cost per influence for being able to get access to these things, it's very hard to do better than an artifact patch, in my opinion. So I'll just, we'll take, I've got 19, 17, and 15. So I'll take the 19, then I'll take the 15 as an example. I mean, I could round it off, but we'll do the actual, numbers. So basically, if I'm spending 60 influence in order to be able to gain 19 artifacts. Now again, time is actually something you'd probably want to factor. In terms of a price. But essentially, I'm paying slightly over 3 per artifact. The worst case scenario would be the 15. That's not the worst case in all of Industries of Titan, but for the purposes of our conversation, we'll say, okay, so in this case, we're spending 60 in order to gain access to 15 artifacts, and that works out to 4. So if you want to just focus on integers, you can say the cost per artifact for a given for this patch is 4 influence per artifact. Now let's consider my alternatives, right? I've got. By the way, I'm just gonna claim this and start working it. It does mean that I lose another worker to doing these extractions, but I'm doing it towards something that's going to get me another worker. So let's take a look at my alternatives. Also, before I do that, I'm going to let's get some exploration done. Again, I'm hitting the V key to do that. I'm sure I'll find that there were actually some really good opportunities for me to take, and I shouldn't have blown the 60 influence on that, but I'm committed now. So let's take a look at some of my alternatives, right? So tier 10, or sorry, 10 influence, tier 1 ruin, 1 artifact. I'm spending 10 influence per ruin. What about one of the good ones that I said, I get 2 artifacts? Well, even then, I'm spending 5 influence per artifact. In order for me to be able to sort of get as a influence per artifact cost, I essentially need to find a level 1 ruin with 3 artifacts or more for that to be worth it. What about this ruin? This is actually probably an example of something that under normal circumstances I would consider a really good deal. So in this case, we're spending 20 influence. Excuse me. We're spending 20 influence for 3 artifacts. Actually, no, sorry, that still doesn't work because that's something like 6. It's like 6 times 3 is 18, and then you just need to make up the change. So, oh yeah, okay, the fraction works out to be like the 6 repeating, I think. Okay, anyways. But yeah, again, that's different from our sort of proposition of 4 per artifact. So even then, this actually isn't that good of a deal. Do I even have anything that... Yeah, all the 3... Oh, no. Okay, so this is the one high... I'm actually going to take that right away. That was something we just discovered as well. 30 divided by 4, I think, is getting close to that. I think that's closer to 7, though, so it's still not as good of a return. This has got to be... Well, no. What's 30 divided by 5? 6. Okay. So if you can find a level 3 ruins with 5 artifacts in it, that will be about the equivalent to what you can get from an artifact patch. Now again, you're getting the artifact patch over a longer period of time, and maybe you don't have the influence available to you. So sometimes in Industries of Titan, the choices that you need to make. So for instance, you know, I'm sort of monologuing and I'm trying to sort of think about my next few plans here. It is maybe worth mentioning that we're at 67% on the rebel threat. I am going to need to figure out what to do with the rebels at some point. I'm going to dismantle this generator here just because it's getting in the way of some other things that I can be doing. Like, I have a tendency to think of this game in long-term terms. So if I can, I want to treat every tier 1 mineral like it will grow up to become a tier 3. And I want to treat every... Like, I want to treat every decision with a mind to maximizing the long-term value of the company. So when we unlock the council, that's going to cost us 5 artifacts, so we're still not quite there. I do want to be thinking about what are the most favorable exchange rates for me. As it turns out, giving up artifacts in order to get influence from the council is one of the most expensive ways you can do that. And so when I think about those details, like in general, I want to try and make decisions that are aligned with sort of having the highest value. You gonna head out? I'll probably sleep soon. Thank you very much, Noxcam. I hope you got a bit of an idea of what Industries of Titan is. I'm definitely still in the early phases. Like, we haven't had rebels come in to attack me yet, but I hope you at least kind of get an idea of what this is. I'll probably be doing this for Wednesdays for the next couple of weeks before Phantom Brigade gets its next update. And if you have any questions, you know, in the next stream between now and whenever you see it, I'm happy to answer those. But have a good sleep. Thinking is the source of all problems. I agree, Index Gnome. It's good to see you again. Okay, so clearly I've got waste problems, so I'm going to build another line of waste receptacles. I might add another one on the edge here because I was thinking of doing like a big string of conversion capsules, but we'll see whether or not I can pull that off. Again, I need to decide. So the reason I wanted to convert at least one was for the Venus, although it looks like I don't have the storage. So I think I'm done for anyway on that.
Oh, hey, Founder. Yeah, I got some free time to chat. Remember how we talked about Titan's medical regulations? Yeah, like everything on Titan, there's basically no rules. Yeah, and I admit, that's what motivated me to come out here, not the job. Weapons development was actually my first career. But you get a couple of felonies on Earth, they don't let you do that kind of work anymore. I was taking jobs in waste chemistry just to stay off the streets. My heart wasn't in it. I hated going into work every day. But then I saw one of those Titan subway ads. You know, the flashy ones where that council guide tells you how great life is on Titan. It got me thinking. I interviewed at a couple of places, and they understood me right away. The thing that motivates
I didn't
people
want to
like
claim
us,
this.
Founder, people like you and me, it isn't cashing a paycheck. No, it's more than that. It's pushing boundaries, right? Telling the people who say, no, you can't do that. Telling them, no, you can't tell me I can't do that. I took one look at you, Founder, and I knew you and I were on the same wavelength about all this. We're gonna do great stuff here, boss.
Oh god, I really like these little vignettes. So I think it said in the patch notes that Vern's lines just got added. I think it was Vern's and Lyos. I think the one thing I really like about Vern is he like just the level of enthusiasm that like he obviously believes that you think exactly like him. And actually, this is kind of funny. I don't want to say the name of the game because it's not necessarily like I'm always reluctant to do the kind of like praising something by tearing something else down. But in this case, I actually do think this is a useful contrast. And I didn't dislike this game that I was playing. But there was an area in which I sort of thought it failed to live up to its potential, let's say. And it was a similar cyberpunk theme. And in this case, essentially what they would do was there would be like, you know, you'd be busy doing your like bad stuff. And the way that it tried to remind you, like I think the developer had actually kind of gone out of the way to say that they didn't want it to be some sort of like, you know, high finance power fantasy or something like that. And I mean, I actually don't have a problem with those, to be honest. Like sometimes it's really good to just be the bad guy, and you can still tell a good story and get your point across by sort of putting these, you know, these kind of caricatures in. But what so you're saying Mr. Conductor is my waste management officer. So the way that this other game tried to make its point was, I think every once in a, and again, like I'm taking this sort of from what the developer had written online. They kind of wanted to convey this by, I think every once in a while you'd like get a message from someone affected by what you were doing and talking about how bad their life was as a result. And I think one of the challenges of that sometimes is that it can come off as very preachy. It will be a situation where, you know, you kind of feel like the game's being put on hold and it's like, oh, this is time for the message. Okay, everybody paying attention? We're gonna get the message here. And what I like instead is you've got a figure like Vern, and you know, the first bit of dialogue that you get with him is, you know, hey, one thing that's really cool about Titan is that I don't need to worry about people's privacy. You know, I took our employees and, you know, looked at their medical records, and instead of having to, you know, deal with all of these pesky medical boards, you know, I've got a natural experiment in terms of how people react to certain types of pollution, or however you want to read that. And then the next message you get is, you know, hey, founder, thanks for the opportunity. You know, back when I was committing crimes on Earth, I was feeling really down about it hurting my employment prospects. But now that I'm here and I can do all this crazy stuff I talked to you about before, I'm feeling really happy. You're just like me, aren't you? Yeah, we think alike. And that's one of those moments where it's kind of like, if you were talking to this guy on the bus, you'd probably get up and like try and find another seat. And what I find is that does the same thing. So the other game, and again, I really don't want to, I feel bad saying this, and it's the reason why I don't want to mention it, because I'm almost like 99% sure the game that I'm talking about is the first game that developer made. And it is a game that I've played, and it's a game that I put some support behind. So, like, again, please don't take this as, like, that person's terrible and they should never make another game again. But I think one thing that makes me really like Titan is that it's able to convey the same idea, right? At no point, like, I kind of think if you play Industries of Titan and you're like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be so cool if this is the way that we wound up, like, colonizing the solar system? Like, you know, again, you get kind of this little moment where you're like, okay, so who am I? Like, you get each of these characters, and it's giving you that moment of reflection or that thought without sort of having the moment where you sort of feel like it's like, okay, well, the developer has some opinions, so you're gonna set aside and listen to the dialogue now to let me know what a bad person I'm being. And I like that approach for sure. Dungeon Keeper, if you want to be the bad guy. Dungeon Keeper is a wonderful game. I haven't played War for the Overworld that much, but that seems... And I guess Dungeons 3 is also supposed to be something of a special spiritual successor. I should probably look into those. Papers, Please. I don't find any I lean into the role and let it play out. Papers, Please is another one. I actually haven't played Papers, Please. Actually, what's interesting too, so Irrepressible's talking about Frostpunk doing a good job of making you feel bad, and then honestly, if your corporate soldiers look badass, there'd be a big faction unironically supporting them. Yeah, I mean, well, this is just it, right? Like, you only need to go to certain parts of, like, finance TikTok to realize that, like, if they could work for the Arasaka Corporation in the cyberpunk setting, like, if you care about the video game Cyberpunk 2077, if you care about the overall setting, Cyberpunk Red now, I think Arasaka is obviously not exclusive to the CD Projekt Red game. But yeah, like they're like, one need only go and look at certain parts of, like, LinkedIn or TikTok to see there's a bunch of people who are just waiting to become the kinds of people that you see in the in the works that are sort of supposed to be satire on this kind of world. But God, I'm really good at chewing through my isotopes. But I wanted to talk actually a little bit about Frostpunk, because I think particularly 11-bit did something really interesting. So I think the most interesting contrast is between Frostpunk and This War of Mine. So what's really interesting to me about This War of Mine is that it is very non-judgmental in terms of the actions that you take. You do what you can in a terrible situation, and at no point does it say, you know, that was a really bad thing that you killed that person. That was a really bad thing that you stole that. That was a really bad thing that you let that thing happen, even though, you know, it might have cost you to try and stop it. And I think that's quite... I know... I think Soren and Layla Johnson did an interview with them on Designer Notes, and I think as far as they were concerned, they really wanted to make sure that they didn't sort of break into the game and sort of tell you how to think about certain things. Because in the end, it's, you know, it's based, well, maybe not based, but like it's intended to sort of be a game about things that have actually happened. I think the particular conflict that they're portraying in This War of Mine is the Siege of Sarajevo. Frostpunk, on the other hand, is fictional, right? It's an invented world, and it's kind of this industrial level. You know, I'm tired of trying to make this work. I'm just gonna use the tier 3. So in that case, it will. But even then, I actually think Frostpunk does it in a really interesting way, which is they present you with the opportunity to do things. It's up to you to decide how you want to take advantage of those opportunities. But at no point, so if you decide to do something horrible in order to save the city, there isn't an immediate consequence. Sometimes there will be like story events that pop up that kind of give you consequence, much the same way that this War of Mine handles that, right? Where you will, you'll be presented with a choice. You do the best with the information you have at the time or with the resources that you have. And sometimes things don't work out the way you want them to, and that's sad. But it's only at the end of the game where it sort of gives you sort of this accounting of all of your actions. And, you have kind of this, for me at least, you have this breathless moment, particularly where you have like a really hard run and you kind of push the limits of what's acceptable. You sort of have this breathless moment as to whether or not the game thinks you sort of retained your humanity. And I actually like that a lot. Like, I really like, especially on repeated playthroughs, like I can kind of see where someone would be like, oh, you shouldn't know that going in. That's a spoiler. And I'm like, I don't really know if that's a spoiler, because obviously it's up to you to decide how that turns out. I don't think anybody knows exactly what the calculation is in terms of how that turns out. But like, when you play multiple rounds of Frostpunk, you now have a chance to, you have this moment, is like, did I go too far? If you've had a challenging run where things were getting a little dicey and you did something maybe you didn't feel good about. And again, it's a very different perspective than what they had for this War of Mine. But I think in that particular case, it works quite effectively. Whereas I think if they had done that for this War of Mine, I think it would have made it... I don't think it would have made that quite as special as I think that game is. So... let me just catch up. A long time ago, you tried to fill out a Target employment application as a mindless corporate drone, and they never called you, so apparently you failed that when they had a big personality. Wait, Target has a personality test? Weird. What kind of questions did they ask, if you don't mind me asking? And it knows I'm the boss, so I guess I'm the bad guy. No need to roleplay on your part. Frostpunk is great. You can make the children work just like you do at home. Yeah. I don't know. I'm a very big fan of. I haven't done that much Frostpunk, but what I've seen in it is definitely really good. They did 15 years ago. You don't know if they still do. Yeah. I've got someone I know who's going through a job search right now, and they're feeling very discouraged about it, particularly. Because they sort of feel like some of the low-level stuff that they're applying to, they're just not getting, any bites on. And there's a limit to what I can try and help with, right? Like I sort of did the usual thing that you do, which is, offer to take a look at the resume and cover letter and all of that. Because sometimes you just need that outside perspective to sort of know. It's like, okay, so, maybe consider this thing. Actually, one of my former students asked for some help with an application that they were doing for universities. Actually, they were going to some really good universities. I think they were applying for computer science at University of Washington, for instance. I think they wound up at Cornell. Anyways, super bright, very, very good student. So in addition to the fact that, I had a rapport, I'm obviously delighted to try and give them a hand, and slightly nervous about it because I'm 90% sure they are smarter than me. But one bit of feedback I got at the end of it was not just that it was very helpful, but that actually I should probably consider doing this as like a side business. Now I never did, because like I don't quite know how I would charge people to like make their application letters better. I'm really gonna get hammered by the rebels if I don't get on top of this. So I need to make a choice between a turret or a shipyard. The problem with the shipyard is I'm not 100% sure I'm going to have space for it. But I can probably clear out that space. Yeah, let's shoot for the space, the shipyard. But I need to get a little serious in terms of making the room. Anyways, so like I guess the reason I tell that story is that like I sort of feel like if somebody needs help with a resume and a cover letter, I sort of feel like I'm in a position to at least try and improve it. Again, you never know. You never know if that's the factor that's hurting. But I mean, in the end, if somebody says no, like, what do you do, right? You can't force them. And if they're not comfortable sharing, you know, I don't want to make someone do something that they don't want. But I also have a lot of sympathy for their position, like when they're feeling discouraged about being, being turned down for these kinds of positions, because in the end, like a company like Target, with all due respect to like Target or whatever, like stocking shelves is not the most taxing thing to do. Like sometimes a job like that really is just a question of being present. And so not even getting an interview for something like that can be just this soul destroyingly like bad, because it's sort of like, really, I can't, like, this is the thing that I can't get a job for. And again, for the most part, it's probably just completely counter to, like, there's completely irrelevant, like, it's not even a question of somebody's ability. Like, I always kind of feel for jobs like that, the fact that you didn't get an interview for it isn't really a marker on you. It's clearly something other than your ability to do the work, because there's just so little related to doing the work that you can really be evaluated on. I mean, I guess there are some things where if it looks like you have a new job every 2 weeks, and, you know, big long gaps in your employment record, I suppose that might be a worry, but yeah, like it's a hard one, because like also just the job search, like I've always just tried to look at it as like the search process is inefficient. Ideally, you don't put a lot of weight on any given application. But because we're human and we have emotions, and usually when you're looking for a job, it's because one is because you want something, but also number two, because you're being evaluated, you do have some sort of sense of self-worth attached to it. These kinds of things definitely wind up sort of wearing down on us. But yeah, basically that's just a very long way of me saying, again, first of all, sorry, I'm so tired. So I tend to ramble a little bit. Like I rant a lot on the stream for sure, but I get a little more rambly and unfocused in the comments when I'm tired. But I don't know, like particularly when somebody's just looking for like honestly, for most people I know, if they're just looking for basics, I kind of say to them, it's like, well, can't you do better? Because like I remember for me, like when I was trying to transition out of film, I was applying to a bunch of coffee shops and couldn't get a job at a coffee shop, and then I applied to a bank and like I almost immediately got in. So it's one of these funny things where you can give yourself sort of lower expectations than are really warranted. Also, I see you there, Whiskey is amazing. How you doing? Index Gnome says, and Index Gnome is the best one to hear from here because they're in the position to tell us what we're worth. Had a friend of yours that struggled getting a job for a long time. You ended up giving him one just to make him look better on paper. Took 3 weeks after that, and he got a job somewhere else. That's really cool. Actually, that's really nice of you to do it, because obviously I know, like, friendships can sometimes be tested in environments like that. So that's cool that you help them out. So it was stuff like, which of these 5 choices would you choose if another employee told you they fudged their time clock? Oh, I've definitely seen those. There's actually there was one application that I did in the past where they actually recommended one of the Government of Canada employees. So like, it's kind of a standardized test that the Government of Canada does for its employees. And that one stuck out to me because I actually had a conversation with someone, and I believe they eventually became a senator's assistant. Now, in Canada, Senate is a bit different from the U.S. Senate, so that job is a little bit different from what you might think it is. But still, like, decent gig, right? But I think the first time that they had tried something like that, they failed. And their account was cultural differences. But essentially it was something along those lines. And I think it was because for them, they felt, it's like the job was like, you see, it's like basically a minor, it's like something of a minor infraction that an employee has made. It's not like they're cheating on their time card. And it's like, do you, A, talk to the employee, B, say nothing, C, go directly to your, your supervisor, so on and so forth. And I think for them, they said, you would always go to the supervisor. They're the one in charge. They're the one who should be making these decisions. But I don't have the answer key for whatever civil service whatever they call that examination. But like, to me, the way that the question was phrased was definitely not to immediately involve your boss. Like, that is something of an escalatory action. And it's such a minor thing that, the individual should probably just be addressed and sort of let them know that this thing is not working or not done. So it's maybe a little surprise for some of those that the answers that to me are obvious are not necessarily obvious to others. But then I also think that's why they are. I think they were trying to imply the exam was racist. I was like, well, I think probably what they're trying to do is make sure that those differences that you have are not things that are going to affect your work performance. Like, would you prefer to find out that it doesn't work that way when you're in an office environment and it causes a real problem, or do you want to find that out on paper, and be able to sort of know later what the correct answer is? I don't know if I sold them on that interpretation, but so this smokestack seems to be a complete waste. They're not sending it garbage. But I'll trust it works over time, and I can start trying to invest something into the logistics. You hate those tests, never used any tests like that when you hired someone. Now you don't have that many working at the company, but you've hired them all over a beer at the pub. Yeah, so I suspect in your case, because it's like a smaller scale as well. Like, I think the thing, I have to assume, like, if we're talking about the government, so Canada's not large, but I'm assuming, like, the Canadian Civil Service is still a pretty sizable organization, and it's one of these things where I'm going to sound really unkind saying this, but you can't expect too much of the people in charge. It's the public service, for crying out loud, right? Like, I'm assuming that you're not attracting the sort of people who are going to be going and making a startup. So not that that's the highest thing that you can aspire to, but you get the idea. So I suspect to a certain extent devices like that establish a floor, and you accept that you are potentially going to be losing out on otherwise good employees, maybe even exceptional employees. But what you are doing is you are preventing you're preventing like a catastrophic failure event. And I suspect probably if you consider what governments kind of seem to be like, sure, yeah, there's probably going to be a certain conservatism in the type of applicant that you prioritize. Look at the map once. Yeah, fair enough. Geographically, it is a very large landmass. Population-wise, that even goes back to colonization. The French were always outnumbered by the English. So, like, yeah, I actually think, Index Gnome, you're probably onto something. And I suspect probably most good hiring managers probably know this. It's like there's definitely, and this is actually where I sometimes get a little worried about people being too eager for work from home. I don't think that we should necessarily like completely revert back to the old way. But I think people are a little too ready to just sort of assume that the old way had no benefits. And like the fact of the matter is that there is something to be said for like sitting down, sort of taking the measure of someone, just see how they react, see how they think, there is something of a flow, in terms of a conversation and just seeing where things go. And that's hard to replicate. You definitely can't do that in a form. Let alone, a Zoom call or a Zoom call, maybe you have a fighting chance, but like, no, it's one of these things where you want to work. I'm assuming it's why like people want to do deals in person. Should ban motor vehicles in Canada since it's too small anyway. Yeah, we'll do it like Terry Fox. We'll all just run across the country if we want to visit one of the 3 oceans we border. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's one of these things where, I think the thing that would probably make me feel more comfortable about, though, like if somebody was going to use them, so first of all, if there's a job that I think will be a good fit and I see a test like that, I'm going to do the damn test, right? Like part of the thing about going to a job is that you're going to do the stuff they ask you to do and you take money in exchange for that. So if I go in at the start of an application and it's like, yeah, we want you to do this test, to do this test. It's like, I don't do those kinds of tests. Well, I haven't exactly started off on the right foot, have I? So, like, this is all kind of academic. But what I would personally find more useful would be for them to explain either why or what they're trying to get out of that. It's a little bit like, I don't know, like you basically don't want to feel like your time's being wasted. I think is probably what it comes down to. Irrepressible, you work for a very large corporation. One of the major issues is that eventually it's HR sorting through candidates. The hiring managers only know the candidates that get through multiple screens. I think there's a rare organization where HR is efficiently finding quality candidates. I don't know a better solution to signaling, just like all of education. No, you're absolutely right. I'm not going to say what game publisher it is. I had a conversation with someone reasonably senior there, and they definitely didn't offer me a job, but it was definitely, when you are ready to apply, please let me know. And actually, one of the things that they said is that if I talk to them, they have to let you go in and do the interview. So I was like, okay, that's a good thing to keep in my back pocket. But I actually want to see, I want to take a crack, because it's been a while since I'd done a job application. was like, I actually want to take a crack and see how I work with the existing system. Part of that's also just because, like, what if I want to try and, move elsewhere within the organization? What if I want to try and get a promotion? Like, what is that going to be like if I don't have this guy to sort of give me a hand? I know for a fact, I don't know that I would be hired there. I do know that the person, at least one of the decision makers in terms of who would be making that decision, would like to evaluate me and see whether or not the promise demonstrated in that conversation is legit and would be something that would be a good fit. I was screened out, like in the first screening interview, just asking the basic questions. I don't know if it was a workplace location thing. I don't know if it was the salary question. Didn't ask me any technical questions. It was just like the basic, first line, gonna ask you some questions, one. Never got a follow-up. So obviously if I want to work there, I'll talk to the guy afterwards and just sort of say, hey, I just tried this thing here. If you're still interested, I noticed you got this position open and so on. It'd be nice to be in a little bit more. I'm very, very close to sealing off that debt forever. I've put it on a 0% interest, like one of those promotional things that the credit card companies occasionally put out. Sorry, I know there's not a lot going on in the game here, but I'm really just kind of waiting for some of this stuff to finish off. Although, I could probably start thinking about where I'm going to be putting my shipyard. I'll put it off to the side here because it's already beside the energy pylon. But yeah, so I mean, like, obviously what you're describing, Irrepressible, it's like, I know directly, again, I'm not going to say that I'm the candidate that would be hired, but I definitely know that under that system, someone who, by the view of the team that is looking to have people on it, someone who they wanted to evaluate didn't get through in that normal procedure. You wouldn't screen at all, just screen out the bare minimum and then pick random people for the rest for an interview. It's not possible to do them all. Yeah, I mean, obviously the best HR strategy is you take a big stack of resumes and then you throw half in the garbage, and essentially what you've done is you've removed the half that are unlucky. The remaining candidates are the lucky ones, and so your organization will benefit from that. I think I'll save up for the 20 influence for the ruins here. So I don't think there's going to be that much. So I think the big increase in the threat level probably has more to do with the sudden increase in, or not sudden, but the increase in artifacts. One way I can sort of give some of that back is to activate the ruin, but that has an influence cost, which I need to put inside the other. Someone other than me believes that luck is a factor. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
Founder, we need to talk. I've been conducting an efficiency review of your advisor offices and, well, the waste management team is not working optimally. That's an understatement, actually. Vern allows his subordinates to self-manage.
This is a timely conversation.
Timesheets, doesn't get performance reviews, doesn't hold regularly scheduled one-on-ones. I tried to confront Vern about it, but he started ranting about work philosophies. He's doing all of this on purpose. It's a management strategy. Look, there are a limited number of worker management philosophies which are proven to increase performance, and this is not one of them. Letting workers manage their own time sounds good, but it doesn't work in practice. If Vern won't start leading with a stronger hand, Founder, I think you should start headhunting a replacement for him.
I got to think about roadways, because the way this smokestack's working or not working basically is a real drag. I'm thinking probably like just take a road out to the edge here. We're in the middle of a work shift, but once we hit 4 o'clock, I'm going to upgrade to the headquarters. This guy in charge of Valve. Of course, in the end, it's just the beautiful women that get hired by you. Or am I allowed to say that out loud on the? Am I on the TV? Is the rest of the family gonna hear that? Hear that line? I am kind of looking for a convenient time to just wrap this up. It's one of the reasons I've been putting a little less effort into the corporation right now. So let's meet some of our characters, and maybe what I'll do is I'll do some codex entries at the end after we hit 4 o'clock.
Hey, Founder! Thrilled to finally meet you. I'm Ayana Oak, your power systems engineer. I'll be managing your city's power systems. That means fuel, energy production, energy storage, all that great stuff. It's my passion, honestly. Since I was a kid, I've wanted nothing more than to slam the contact switch on a giga battery and see the sky light up. And after years of school and grad school and VR training programs and dropping out of VR training programs, I'm finally here. We'll do great stuff together, Founder. Trust me. My career is on the line, and you can count on me to take that seriously.
It was the lady that said it. She did see the screen over your shoulder. Yeah, again, I'm sorry for the decline in quality today. I really am going to do my best to get the sleep stuff under control, but I'm particularly feeling it right now. My biggest disappointment was not getting a chance to see the rival corp. So I actually think I'm going to wait until we fully upgrade the headquarters just to see if maybe maybe the extra view will help. You only hire blue-eyed people and then breed them together. Your eyes will not perish from this earth. Just waiting on counts. So I could trade mineral. Actually, hang on. 37 on minerals. There's a lot that I can get off the ground here, but I have a feeling that we're going to be working these for a bit, so I'll be patient. It's tempting though, because I do kind of want the influence. All right, there we got it. So the reason for doing this is just so that I can get the shipyard down. I'm assuming at some point the headquarters is going to get built. Now that I can get the shipyard down, I'm feeling a little bit better about our prospects. I still need to build something to defend us, but that'll come. And then I do want to get back to building defensive turrets. I'll probably stick one right here because that should cover everything. But in this case, I do find, at least from my experience in the last timed contract that I did, we need more waste storage. Yeah, my experience from the last timed contract was such that the turret, with the changes to the hull strength, or at least the damage that a turret does against a hull, having a single tier 1 turret will actually not be sufficient to defend against the rebel ship. Not a fan of blue eyes. You can say this is it has now left the room. I do not want this stream to be responsible for a big fight. I'm hoping nobody gets in trouble watching. Okay, this is a complete mess. Let's go. Well, we'll do one step at a time. So I would still kind of like to have the illusion that I'm going to build more than one conversion capsule along the edge here. So I can stick a couple more on this side here. Oop. The earthquakes are definitely a really cool little touch. Oh yes, also more importantly, we can investigate some more ruins. So I think I'm going to change my priorities as far as the smokestack's concerned. I'll probably put it more along this side of the... Well, this side or this side. And then I guess this can be where I put more of the housing. I know it's near the spaceport, but there doesn't really seem to be any optimal housing locations. And again, it's just an effort to try and reduce pollution where I can. But at the very least, we're in a situation where we can theoretically defend ourselves against the rebels. Again, the rebel threat level's ticking up slightly, but there's a couple things I'm going to do to offset that. So actually, I will fast forward for a little bit just so I can show you the plan. This is just waiting on the council communications. Again, this isn't the end of the world because we're moving stuff into construction anyway, so there wasn't going to be anything that I do to change what's going on. But once I get 20 influence, the second part of the plan will come in. So for those of you who remember the end of the last run that we had on Industries of Titan, there was a breakdown of our net worth. And so to be clear, one reason why I want to absorb the pollution here is right now I've got this fuel turbine and it seems pretty darn close to this thing that's going to be sucking zethane out of the air. And of course I'm also taking zethane out in my headquarters, so denying the ability to take that zethane is a problem. So that's kind of that motivation. But if you recall, artifacts were one of the highest value items for your corporation's net worth. So let's think a little bit about what's going to happen if I try and activate this inert ruin. So number one, I do have a weak point that the AI is going to be targeting, and I can potentially lose. So I've got 53 health for this energy. However, I am currently generating a small energy surplus, so that number can keep going up. And more importantly, I will spend 6 artifacts in order to be able to gain it. So we claim our expectation would be, because the threat level is tied to net worth. Okay, it's 1%. I was hoping for something a little bit more dramatic, but no such luck. This is encouraging. So I was thinking of moving the fuel turbine down here. Now that's not a possibility in this specific spot because I would have to take down this ruin, but maybe we could put a single there, or maybe we just double it up here. There's a few options that we have. This thing will absorb pollution, so that's possible, but probably not a good idea. Any clue when Phantom Brigade might come out? The only official word is they have an idea of when they're going to do that, but they are not ready to say. So any other answer is pure speculation. But yeah, I know well, okay, I don't know. I am very certain that the game's not going to be going on Steam until it's out of early access. Oh, come on!
Nothing can protect you from my wrath.
All right, let's see how the turret does. Then we'll call it. And the roadmap has enough things on it that makes me say probably we still have at least a few months ahead of us before we, before we get to have the fun. But yeah, so I think it'll still be a while. So let's see if I've just lost. I have a plan here, but this is gonna take a little fancy timing. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I know a big factor. I think I have to do the burrowing now because they're gonna get another attack on it before it burrows. Oh crap! All right, well. I'm pretty sure I just got, I'm pretty sure I've just, like, lost big time. Because they're going to be focusing on the activated battery. I've got nothing I can do to defend it right now. But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they know there's quite a few sort of unrealized sales waiting for the full version. So okay, this gives us a fighting chance, but it doesn't look like it's turning on the defense turret, which is not good for us. Nope, now it is. So we'll see whether or not it can pull it off. I think in this case we'll just salvage this because this wasn't really accomplishing a whole lot anyway. Look at Rogue Legacy 2, you were barely aware of it, and then it goes to 1.0 and then it's the top of Twitch all the time. Yeah, I knew Rogue Legacy 2 was a thing. But then it sort of felt like everyone was playing it all of a sudden. I didn't realize that it was still in early access. So for me, that was just sort of me not really paying attention to what was going on. But another great example of this would be Hades. Like, I played Hades long before that came out on Steam. But I actually had a lot of fun doing Hades on stream, and I kind of ran out of time to do everything that I wanted, so I didn't get to go back to it as soon as I was hoping. But like obviously, people have their preferences. Like it's Epic's making a bet, so I don't think Epic's bet is necessarily wrong. I do think that they are actually capturing something with the giveaways that they're doing and the money that they're putting into exclusives. But like I think any idea that people had that this system was somehow going to just bankrupt Steam, I incidentally don't think Epic thought that. I think that was something that largely sort of the like people who play games were thinking about it. Like it's pretty clear that Epic is fighting for a share of this market to make it kind of worth still doing this thing. And I mean, it makes sense, right? Because, I don't know if Fortnite's going to go on forever, but probably they want to come up with a few other ways of earning revenue. And more importantly, like they're just operating on a scale that if they can actually make a dent in the kinds of fees that they have to pay to the various platforms, like that on its own is actually worth quite a bit to them. But I also know there's a lot of people who just don't like what they're doing. I know Microsoft does not consider them to be aligned with what their overall vision for gaming is. I mean, obviously, to a certain extent, everybody just kind of wishes they could have the market to themselves. Obviously, they used to have a very good relationship with Apple, and now they're suing them. They're off Google Play for a while. I don't know if they're back. They're certainly kind of... They have some sharp elbows about this stuff, and there is kind of a question as to whether or not it's paid off. So, I've broken up with someone and told them it's not you, it's me, since it's totally them, and I just don't feel like lying about that. Epic is just not for you. Yeah, I actually don't mind the Epic. Like, I'm playing this on Epic right now because this was originally in the Epic. This was originally in the Epic store. I do actually have a Steam copy of this game now, but by the way, I should have mentioned this. I am actually playing a copy given to me from Brace Yourself. I'm sorry, again, lack of sleep. I really should have said this earlier, but I am playing a copy that was given to me for promotional purposes from Brace Yourself. Okay,
This loss is a lesson, and when I am victorious, I will remember it.
We made it. I think there was some waste. Yeah, there's some waste that sank us. So, holy crap. I really mismanaged this opening. But yeah, like I'll be honest with you, like it's not my job to be an advocate for the Epic Store. As far as a partnership program is concerned, they've actually had the best one I've ever been a part of. I thought they had a great way of handling it. I do like some of the things that they do in terms of the fact of like if they do a giveaway for a game and you've bought it recently, they will proactively refund you. Or if there's like I think in some cases there have been like discounts that happen, and again they sort of proactively discount those. But it is also fair to say the store, especially when it launched, did not have the same features as Steam, and it is very clear that part of that 30% that Steam is charging people comes from the fact that it's giving people access to a certain type of audience. It's providing a certain set of features that people really want. So, for my part, like, here's an accounting of what I've got on the Epic Store right now. Because, like, I obviously own more games than I necessarily have installed. But, like, in terms of stuff that I'm somewhat regularly playing on the... that's not true. They've got a wish list now and a cart. Or was it? So, Troy, Total War Saga, MechWarrior 5, Ape Out, Old World, Phantom Brigade, Industries of Titan, Hades, John Wick, Grand Theft Auto 5, RimWorld, Satisfactory, Subnautica, and Tetris Effect. So, like, that's a reasonable amount. If I gave you my list of Steam stuff, like, that's just gargantuan. So, obviously, sort of through revealed preferences, more of the stuff that I want to play is currently on Steam. Obviously, part of that is having my existing library and such. But, like, the thing is in the end, my view has always been that it's Epic's job to convince you that they are worth jumping on. And they have got a tough job ahead, right? Because you're familiar with Steam, you've got all your games on there already. Steam works. It's, like there's a lot of stuff that is desirable about maintaining the status quo. And as you say, Index Gnome, like competition is always good. Like I definitely like some of the shifts that are happening in terms of gaming, in terms of people's responses to the Epic Store. But that's kind of the limit to my fanboyism. Like, if I'm giving an honest accounting of it, I actually don't have a big problem with the Epic Store. But I'm pretty easy to please, and I'll be honest with you, like, I don't like Steam reviews. I actively avoid Steam reviews. So, like, that on its own, the fact that the Epic Store... Like, I know one big thing people have about it is they give, like... they do give critics, they give like an aggregate of published reviews, but they don't have user reviews. And like for me, I'm like, well, I actually don't miss that. I actually kind of wish that Steam didn't I actually don't wish that Steam didn't have reviews, but like Steam reviews have generally caused me more grief than anything. I don't do a lot of modding in games. I know that there is now mod support on the Epic Store as well, but it's probably not as robust as Steam, because if everybody's on Steam, that's the network effect, right? If everybody's on Steam, all the modders are going to be on Steam. And if it takes extra effort to put something on on the Epic Store, and it's not going to be reaching as many people, why would you put that extra effort? You're already volunteering your time for a mod. So, if they do well, the upside is potentially Steam becomes better, or I have a good alternative that I can spend more time in. Right now, it's honestly just another launcher that I open with my games. I have a Ubisoft launcher that I also open to play like Anno or Division 2. I've got a Rockstar launcher that opens when I open Grand Theft Auto 5. Like, I've just kind of accepted that there's going to be multiple launchers on my computer, and it's just a thing. But in terms of like loyalty to a particular store or preference for a particular store, I just don't really have it, because to me, the storefront really does actually become something that's just a device that converts money into video games for me. So, although I will be honest, the one thing that there was one other thing I wanted to check on the session. The one thing that I'm not crazy about is Twitch's storefront. Because with the Cultist Simulator stuff, I get a lot of people saying that, I started playing this game because I got it for free on Twitch, and I haven't been able to get any updates, and I can't buy the DLC. So it kind of feels like Amazon, of all people, made a game store, and then it didn't turn out for them. And what's happened is there's a bunch of games that can't even be updated by the people who are continuing to develop them. So it's like a mobile version of Cultist Simulator. It's got a big patch that updated its UI a couple months ago. Actually, one that had some rather angry replies because it wasn't quite ready. None of that stuff is ever going to be realized by the people who got it as like a Prime benefit, because Twitch just decided it wasn't worth maintaining. And that stuff I'm a little bothered by, because I do know that was a storefront where you could buy stuff. So I don't know what happens to those people who spent money on that storefront. The new Stanley Parable update has a pretty good send-up of Steam reviews. Oh, I really got to play that. Yeah, no, it totally, that patch needed more time. Okay, I just wanted to see if our rival corporation was in here, but I am now talking about the Store Wars, and we got past the Rebels. I'm here for more than a half hour longer than I had intended to be, so I hope you don't mind, but I gotta wrap this up just because I gotta get some sleep. But thank you everybody for watching. I'm gonna try and have a little bit more substance to the actual playthrough. So decent enough foundations. I am a little annoyed that I'm a little annoyed that I sort of stumbled on the rebel attack. But we got through it, and I think I definitely need to get that road and that smokestack down, but I think a lot of my focus is actually probably going to be on building apartments and corporate HQs, but making sure that I maintain the the number of workers at the sort of the same rate. Basically not allowing the gap in terms of the credits that I was earning, at least until I have a few nasty ships that I can be running. But honestly, I think I've got 500 storage for trash. So I clearly there's got to be something else to do for handling trash. So it's not even 5 a.m. here. Can't stop yet. Too early for you to go to bed. That was last night I lay in bed, but I'm near certain I did not actually get any sleep last night. I did a little like I had a bit of a nap in the afternoon, but that's not enough. So hopefully I'll be able to sort of reset tonight. We got a few options for people who are streaming tonight, but let's send it on to. Oops, sorry. I took a look at Industries of Titan. There wasn't anybody playing that, but was there anybody playing Phantom Brigade? No. Okay. So I'm gonna host Outworld tonight. You want my kid? I mean, you're. Thank you. No, irrepressible 32 Tal. I feel like how could I deny you the joys of child rearing? Could you not sell it? I'm not that mean. Maybe we give it to Vern, Uncle Vern. But yeah, for those of you who are into Industries of Titan, more of that, and hopefully running into the rival AI next week, next Wednesday. If I can get extra work in, I can, but I have a feeling that I'm going to be a bit strapped for recording time. Friday, I'm split. I actually really liked doing Starflight, and it seems that people had a really positive response to that. So if you'd like to see more Starflight, let me know. I'm somewhat inclined to doing that on Friday, but I also really liked Hand of Fate 2. So if you really like Hand of Fate 2, and particularly if you really like the Twitch integration in that, also let me know. Because I'm genuinely split between those two. And of course, I can just do more Titan. That's also an option. But those are all potentials for me. Either way, we're going to host Outworld tonight. He's doing, I think, Mortal Kombat speedruns. But he, I knew him from back when I first started streaming, and he's a decent enough host. He's partnered, so you've got a minimum floor of quality, or at least number of people there. So have a lovely evening. I'll see some of you Friday. See some of you in a week if you're just here for Titan. And otherwise, take care. See you then.